Welcome back to The Watch, and this is a reply video this time. A reply. We're replying to someone. I actually don't know this creator at all, but it was recommended to me saying, hey, you might want to check this out. To someone defending the show. Now,
defending what show? The
show of Phalo. Phalo.
Isn't it weird? There's 3 shows that are coming out, all based around rings or circles, right? Wheel of Time, Lord of the Rings, and Halo.
So there's a bit of a pattern there.
And they're all going to suck. They all have so far.
So far, the Phalo show is an atrocity. It is absolute garbage. We are doing episode-by-episode reviews. And this is a video someone posted in defense of the show and claiming to be in good faith. And so, as a result, look, I am always open to a good argument and rebuttal and discussion.
I am as well.
And so is Oz, yes.
But this isn't one of those things.
Really? Why is that, Oz?
I've already watched it.
You've watched it?
Yeah, almost twice.
Oh, really?
And each time I hate it more.
Okay, so you're not a fan?
I could probably pause every 6 or 7 seconds to point out what he said is wrong.
Well, we'll do it. This is like, if you know anything about Night's Watch, we
go places.
We go places, and we will not shy away from going in depth and taking the time we need to review it. Yep. Because if his arguments are poor, we will be addressing his arguments and how genuine or disingenuous those arguments are. I watched the first couple of minutes, and he was very clear about trying to be respectful and stuff like that. And okay, I hope he is. I hope he maintains, because there is a difference between claiming respect and speaking in a measured tone versus showing or representing the other side respectfully and having respectful arguments, and how he represents those. And I was already starting to get some warning signs, and as I was watching, as to how far his respect goes in terms of representing other views and things. I haven't watched the whole thing, but we'll see, because if he is respectful, awesome. And we're going to try and be respectful, but even if we disagree, I'm sure it's possible that he has said something you would agree with. No. Maybe that we'll find something in this. Let's find out. All right, we'll see. We'll dive right into it. So who was his name? His name is?
Installation00.
Installation00. Okay.
I don't want to write this, but it's not going away, so here goes nothing.
That's exactly what the writers said.
So he's obviously just preempting backlash. And when I watched it, the video almost had half dislikes, and because I have the dislike.
It seems to have changed a bit.
So is it? What is it now?
Hey everyone, welcome back to Installation00, and today we're covering a subject which many are going to find uncomfortable. I'm going to find it uncomfortable as well.
I think he is uncomfortable because he knows how much the show is hated, and any defense against it from a lot of the fans, it's going to have an interesting backlash.
And I want to challenge some points of contention and complaint in as a respectful manner as possible without going out of my way to be cruel or offend or attack anyone on an individual level, their position on the Halo series. Overtly hateful comments will be deleted.
Respect, common decency, I think you can expect that, okay? But that doesn't mean we have to respect his opinions.
Or him. You don't have to respect
or be
anyone.
respectful to the things he says. If we vastly disagree, especially, look, if he says something that is blatantly dumb, I will probably belittle and make fun of it because, things that are so blatantly incorrect, fair game, I feel. But that's attacking his argument as an individual. And if he's a nice, friendly guy, I'd be happy to hang out with him, okay? But this is more about opinions. And so I feel like he can't demand, you must respect my arguments, or, no, that's not how that works, okay? But look, I do appreciate that his trying his very hardest to be respectful, but I think that's more out of, worry of the backlash that could come.
I think that's more so out of the, no offense, British pomposity that a lot of people have. That's my opinion.
I disagree, though, on that.
Okay.
Okay, so on record, I'm really enjoying the Halo TV series. And I'm powerfully aware that there are tons of you out there who also are really enjoying it. I read your comments, I see the posts and responses on my videos and across social media.
less than a week later after its YouTube premiere, has almost twice as many dislikes than likes. Looks like Paramount didn't like this. It looks like Paramount was maybe working with YouTube to get some of those dislikes purged. This was when it was 13K up to 40K down. Then it got to 15K up, 45 down.
It is, but it's bottomless. Vast amounts of can be yours. You just keep thinking, whoa, more for me. I love this. Yes. It's so
I'm seeing, as I'm sure you all are, an immensely negative response to the Halo series alongside those truly enjoying it and those who are okay with it or can take it and leave it. The hate it is receiving, I can genuinely understand from an individual perspective when the argument is pitched in the right way.
He can understand the hate from an individual's perspective if the argument is pitched in the right way.
Okay, that's like almost a non sequitur. What do you mean? You can understand an individual perspective. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, what about the collective perspective of all the people that hate it?
Yeah, because most of the things that we don't like about it are the same reasons.
Yeah.
And also, when it's pitched in the right way, like, what way is that? When we grovel to you and, like, bow down to you and lick your feet? How do you want this argument presented to you? How does he want it?
Well, I wouldn't say that far.
Because clearly my tone would be too disrespectful for him.
Some of the feedback is constructive and well articulated, but a lot of it is either ignorant of facts, highly subjective based on a person's own personal opinions rather than the reality. Some is highly narrow-minded, and some of it is just downright ugly.
That is such a lefty thing. It's like, oh, you're such a garbage person. Oh, you're such a plebeian. You dirty peasant.
This is me assuming. I would like some examples of what he thinks is an ugly argument and other things like that. The writers are idiots. Is that an ugly one? But the thing is, they have written some astronomically dumb, stupid, lazy stuff that, like, this is not high quality. It's really dumb.
Yeah.
And
the reason he's saying it's ugly is because it goes outside of the way they believe themselves to act. You know, it's like, oh, these peasants, they're so unruly. It's literally that exact same mindset. The exact same. They see themselves as above everyone.
There is some elitists I see now and then. And I have to admit, there is a bit of a, high and mighty attitude here.
Yeah, you can hear it in his voice.
I can't criticize because I certainly do that as well, so...
You do it a lot less than this. This guy has it with every word.
I've personally seen people attacking each other, defamation of character, bullying, and even death threats towards others regarding the division between people who enjoy the show and those who don't. Let me start by saying under no circumstances is it ever acceptable to wish hurt, pain, or death upon another human being.
Death threats. Okay.
If I really, really honestly wanted to kill a fella, and I was going to do it, what do you think the last thing that I would do would be?
Well, you'd be an idiot to say it online. That would be true.
So in the interest of keeping this more respectful, I will once again highlight, if you don't like the TV series, if you don't like the Silver Timeline, I understand.
Also, he's framed the whole thing like the people who don't like it, they're the ones sending the death threats. There's no evidence of that. If there is, show it. But there could be equally as much evidence of people who love the show attacking people who say they hate the show.
Yeah.
So there you go. But he framed it one way, so...
Evidence, then. Because there are people who claim to have death threats just to be, look at me, I'm victimized and stuff, and they don't give the evidence. We saw this with Frosk when Quarterine invited her onto his channel to have an interview, and then they pulled out saying that she got death threats, and he's like, oh, I'll denounce it, just send me screenshots and I'll put it, and no screenshots came.
Yep.
They couldn't deliver at all.
Same thing with that woman that Jordan Peterson argued with on the internet, on TV.
Kathy Newman,
no death threats.
And in actual fact,
they came from the left.
Jordan Peterson received vastly more violent, aggressive attacks and accusations and threats than she did.
Yeah.
But she was the victim, even though he copped it way more. I certainly agree with him if they're like legitimate threats of violence. Of course, that
The only legitimate threat of violence that gets put up online is from Al Qaeda.
Well, that's the the thing that I'm trying to contextualize. That a lot of the so-called threats of violence is just people being stupid online, and it's not serious.
I will be challenging some of the major points of contention and arguments brought forward by the vocal haters. If you don't want to engage and don't want to hear about the Silver Timeline, you are under no obligation to watch this video or the TV series, and you can leave at any time.
But
Silver timeline.
Yeah, it's called the Silver Timeline because they've admitted this isn't connected to the story of Halo. It's a new timeline. It's a new turning of the wheel, Shad. That's
Is
what they're
this the
saying.
Silver Timeline?
The TV show.
It's called the Silver Timeline.
Yeah. It's part of the reason why his team is called Silver Team. In the lore, his team is Blue Team. There's Spartans of different teams. There's Red Team, Blue Team, and Black Team.
Okay.
He's, for some reason, they moved him out of Blue Team into Silver Team.
Well, this already is feeling like it's an adaptation. It's another turning the wheel kind of argument where it's not meant to be the same. Exactly. Look, it does make me question how much of a fan they are of Halo if you could love this or really enjoy this show.
Yeah.
Because it's not Halo.
I've had that argument for years. If you love the thing that is nothing like the source material, then you don't love the thing. You know?
Well, this is legitimately come up with our Wheel of Time coverage. Like, if you're saying you loved what's in Wheel of Time so much, yet you think there were problematic elements that were better changed or removed, you objectively do not love the source material as much as me, who wants it the same as possible in the book.
If you want to be unreasonable and spout the same BS I've seen all over the internet about the series without even remotely considering adding context or being constructive, your comments will be deleted. If, however, you want to be reasonable, listen to the points I raise and then counter them constructively in the comments, I implore you to do so.
How do you determine whether you're being reasonable?
Is it? Yeah, good point. Good point.
Yeah. And do you know how you do that? Well, you can't really, but you can have principles. Mm-hmm. And yeah.
I hope it's not just agreeing with me.
What do you mean?
Well, some people you know.
As I'm looking for a decent and respectful dialogue about this subject with some context on how you came to Halo, how deep in the lore you are, and your general feelings about the series without being needlessly cruel to the show, its creators or actors, or each other. I'm just trying to mediate expectation as I'm bracing for a really negative kickback to this. So I've said enough of trying to damage limit the pushback. Let's get on with challenging a few points and articulating the arguments as to why I like the show and while I think the hate
is unjustified.
Respectful. Let's keep it respectful. And then he throws that in there, and even though it's not him saying it, and he might try and play it off as a joke, it's like, no, you picked that clip for a reason.
Yeah.
And so this is reflecting what you feel because you've got someone else to say the words you wanted to say.
Yeah. It's the equivalent of like walking with a plate of eggs, like tiptoeing, and then start juggling them.
Almost like that. It's like, all right, you want to set a respectful tone, but basically this is where the show really begins. Like, sorry, the video begins. Like, you think the hate that the show has got is un-effing justified. Like, in a very strong, like, yeah.
This section's called mid-quoted, the chapter. Sorry, I think you mid-spelt that one.
And by picking the one that, like, this is a very emotional, it's unjustified. I was like, that's feels a bit of an aggressive attack to people who hate the show. It's like, you got this one. It's like,
yeah, that attack against us is f***ing unjustified.
But no, like, I wouldn't care. But he was so all of the previous, like, let's be respectful, let's approach this, and then
it sends a very mixed message and tone for him to be very chill. Like, we're going to be nice here. We're going to not say any bad words. Like, we're going to, if you disagree with me or whatever, it's going to like, and then
but so many of your opinions are justified. Like, okay, you picked that clip, all right, and it's reflecting something of his views, like feelings on the matter. Really,
I couldn't help it. I had to throw that in there. A little bit of a tension relief. Anyway.
Yeah, that's tension relief. It's unjustified! Tension relief. Yeah. I love it when a British person screams, it's f***ing unjustified in my face. Release the tension.
To me, it's like, it actually reveals the true emotion he has boiling under the surface about this. Is like, I'm calm. But inside is like, oh, the hate in the show is unjustified!
And they came bounding over. Yeah, so tension relieving.
The clip you're referencing. It's an Aussie clip too.
To be fair, those pit bulls just wanted a meal. A succulent Chinese meal.
Okay, so first up, I want to address this nonsensical argument.
Here we go. This is the first argument. The writers didn't even look at the game or lore. They aren't fans of the games, so they're in no position to make a TV series. This is at best fan fiction, at worst it is an abomination and definitely not Halo. That is so well summarized.
It is, actually. I kind of agree with that.
Yeah, I agree with all that, yeah.
The writers didn't even look at the game or lore. They aren't fans of the game, so they're in no position to make a TV series. This is at best a fan fiction, at worst it is an abomination and definitely not Halo, or words to that effect.
At best, I wouldn't even call it a fan fiction.
It's faux fiction.
Faux fiction or fake fiction, because fan fiction
Hate
is
fiction.
oftentimes respectful, and people put more effort into reflect the lore and stuff like that. This is a Halo TV show is so bad, it's a disingenuous comparison to even call it fan fiction. I agree. Even though I've called it fan fiction, but people pulled it up in the comments, and I agree with you, and now I'm reflecting what you said in the comments, and now my own words.
Well, this was inspired by a quote taken out of context from an article on Variety.
Taken out of context. We didn't write the article.
Also, I think when people say they didn't even look at the lore, right? Well, I know when I say it, I'm saying it in exaggerated. I'm trying to exaggerate a very important truth. If they got this, if this show was the result, okay, doesn't matter how many lore books you have read. Have you really read it? Okay? This is evidence that it feels like very much that you didn't even look at it. That's what I mean when I say it's like they didn't even look at it or they didn't look at it. We're saying because this is the friggin' result. It's a dumpster fire. It's absolute crap.
The proof is in the pudding.
It is so different to the original lore that any defense of saying, oh no, we really did look at the lore makes it's like, no, you didn't.
They said as much.
Exactly. And so it's not actually just from this quote. It's also the results. And I don't care how much they say they studied it, because I'm sure they actually read a lot of the lore. But
they had a 343 employee working with them called Kiki Wolfkill, who has wolf killed Halo.
And so, I like when people are actually criticizing it for, not reading the lore, it's not like we're so dumb we think that no one actually read certain parts of the Halo lore. They didn't take it on board. They didn't absorb it. It's like when people say, you're hearing me, but you're not listening. Okay? And it's like, you're not listening, and there's a different use of the language here to reflect the truth of what they're trying to say, is that they actually didn't really read it. They didn't actually absorb the lore if this is the results.
Where showrunner Stephen Kane said, we didn't look at the game, we didn't talk about the game, we talked about the characters and the world, so I never felt limited by it being a game. This quote fed speculation. They didn't bother learning about Halo.
Wait, so the quote where they said, we didn't look at the games, we didn't talk about the games, that's based, and this show is based on a video game series called Halo, first and foremost. It is a video game series. And you think that means that this quote fed speculation they didn't bother learning about Halo?
He's actually drawn a false equivalence as well. What I certainly got from that is the literal meaning of what the quote said. We didn't talk about the games. Okay? That's what I got. I didn't equate that to them not learning about Halo at all, because obviously they did. I mean, do you think they just pulled out this somewhat close representation of Master Chief's helmet out of the rear end? They obviously got it from somewhere, so they obviously looked at something about Halo to get the veneer of this skin suit to reflect it somewhat, okay? Yes, they learnt some things about Halo, but it's what they learnt from the games has been the big criticism. And it looks like they didn't learn much, because guess what? They actually said, we didn't talk about the game at all. We talked about the characters in the world. That's where and so already he's shown the quote and then constructed a straw man to say people are taking this to mean that no one learned anything about Halo at all. No. Saying that you didn't look to get to the games for the proper, true inspiration to try and make the show even feel like the source material.
Yeah, because guess which ones were universally loved and beloved and held as like a golden age of gaming? The first three. Guess which ones are irrelevant? The ones that 343 made. Well, they're relevant to this guy. It's this whole bloody channel 343 stuff.
But this just isn't true.
Yeah, it's a straw man though. You've constructed a straw man as like, they said this about the games, but that means they didn't learn anything about it. Like everyone using this quote as being, they learned nothing about Halo at all, which isn't true. Who said that? Obviously they've learned some things about Halo. It's got Halo in the title, and they're using Master Chief's suit. Like, we're not that retarded to think that they just, obviously they're trying to make it look like Halo some way, so they must have had some basis.
Yeah.
But when we say they use nothing from Halo, it's obviously a hyperbolic exaggeration of a deeper truth, which is that they are being so disrespectful, it's as if they didn't even draw anything from the original material. That's what the meaning is. So instead of trying to make a straw man and warp the argument, why don't you go to that deeper truth that people have been trying to refer to, and people exaggerate things to try and highlight the problem, to make the problem more visible. That's what they say.
Exaggerated to hide the problem.
Exactly, and now he's avoided the true criticism, which is how insanely different and just completely the amount of lore that discarded from the games. That's what they meant by that. Okay,
and also against one of these talking points, they also destroyed the characters and the world as well.
Goodness.
They
butchered it.
Yeah.
Butchered it. And so this argument that is constructing here is purposely avoiding the true criticism that people have and are referencing when they reference that quote. But it's like, no, let's make a straw man and let's just reference they obviously learned lots about the law.
Oh, so I never felt limited by the games. Limitation breeds creativity. It's partly why Lord of the Rings is so great, because they had a shoestring budget and they had to do specific things.
They bloody should feel limited by the games. Like, the games is the blueprint. You want the show to feel like people like the games. If you want them to like the show, make the show feel like the games in tone, in the reflection of the character. I'm not saying you actually have to have, like, a construction of the Halo TV show to reflect the gameplay, where you just have Master Chief running through a forest and shooting things and no
more
story.
Entertaining, though.
Probably would be. But this is as far as I go, because I'm I've actually heard that his next argument is going to say, this is where it makes sense, because they tried to make a one-to-one recreation of the show. It would have been people running around. It's like, who friggin' no. When we say you need to be, you should be limited by the game, you need to make the character, the Master Chief adaptation that they're making, reflect the original character. They're limited to what Master Chief was. He's stoic, he's strong, he's a kickback guy. We want action-oriented. Those are the limitations that the show should have been restricted to reflect what Halo was.
The article actually goes on to say, one of the major sticking points with the failed movie adaptation, which, if you remember, was meant to be done by Weta Studios and Neil Blomkamp, he went on to do District 9, was actually reportedly Microsoft's rigid fealty to the game's backstory. So the operative reason we never really got a movie was because of the attempt of sticking too closely to the game's narrative.
This isn't true at all. The reason the Halo film fell through is because Universal asked for the filmmakers to take a smaller cut of the profits when they were already set to make the entire film. They waited until the last minute and then pulled out. It was a backstab, it was a low blow, but it's a completely false narrative that it was taken down because of Microsoft.
Onwards from this, it was said that while the show would draw heavily from the mythology, it would chart its own separate storytelling path, similar to how Marvel Studios pulls from thousands of Marvel comics to create the distinct Marvel Cinematic Universe. The Halo TV series exists in what 343 is calling the Silver Timeline.
So just hold up there.
This argument, by the way, just so you know, this argument he goes into kills his own argument.
Yeah, this is a massive false equivalence. A lot of the Marvel, movies and stuff stay very true to the source material. And the divergences are nowhere near as extreme, not even close as extreme to the divergences that we see in the Halo TV show. This is not an accurate equivalence or comparison. Okay. Oh my god!
Also, right, there's, like you said, thousands of Marvel comics, right? Marvel and Disney pulled from thousands of Marvel comics and put it into the MCU. There's only one Halo game series. Only one.
Yeah, but look at Captain America, okay? The movie versus the source material. They have remained incredibly true to, the most important, crucial parts of Captain America. Yeah. That's the key. You need to keep the most important parts as accurate as possible, and then you have a bit of room to move in things that are not as important, okay? And then you might be able to use those to adapt it more easily to a visual format and things, but like Iron Man, again, really accurate to the original source material, okay? And changing it from being a Korean guerrilla group, was it Korean or Vietnamese, to Middle Eastern, it doesn't change the fundamental essence of that story. That's really important.
Yeah.
What would have done it, maybe, I don't know, changing Tony Stark's character from a confident, suave, billionaire playboy
to a whiny little bitch.
That would change it dramatically.
Yeah.
completely switching out the character personality, and then instead of like an action superhero show, we have I don't know, like a rom-com or
not even
Therapy session.
therapy session, yeah. Or it's just Tony Stark talking about the trauma he had in like being caught by the terrorists.
They tried that a bit for Iron Man 3, and it was the least popular one.
But see, that's not an equivalent. An equivalent would be something that changed crazy amounts from the source material. But no, Marvel, a lot of them, not all of them, some of them, especially more recent last stuff, is garbage. But the stuff that was really good remained true to what the source material was, because they were popular for a reason.
Because the real story is the story of the character, right? It's not like the story and character are separate things. The character is what informs the story if you're a good writer. And that's what it was for Halo, mainly.
Halo was an action series, right? The show at the moment is not an action series. It is a melodrama identity crisis show. That's really it, okay? With only 2 actual action scenes that were just surrounded in, like, the second one surrounded in utter stupidity and crap.
And the first one just sucked.
And, yeah, it's not like Halo at all. They've changed the fundamental genre of the story.
This is an interesting point. So many people have said, it's not Halo, it's a fan fiction, it's an abomination, it's this, it's that. How many times have we seen Batman reimagined from a comic book to games to movies to TV series? How many different incarnations of Batman and Bruce Wayne exist? And yet in all those variations, did any one of them ever get the flack that the Halo TV series has?
Yes!
Wow.
It's the adaptation argument. It's the same. This is just another turning of the wheel.
Turning the wheel. It's another turning of this argument.
Yeah.
Bro, in each one of those...
Batman reimagined from a comic book to games to movies to TV series. How many different incarnations?
In each one of those, the same stuff basically happens.
The core of Batman is there. Did they actually change the genre from it being an action superhero flick to Batman having a therapy session? No. Where he's just on the couch talking about stuff? And sometimes the comics do go out of their way to really mess things up.
More recently, especially.
Like, to explore maybe Batman psychology now and then, but the core... they always come back to the core, okay? And they don't fundamentally change it. And especially all the adaptations here, they're trying to reflect Batman.
Notice how in all these adaptations, Batman has his mask on?
Imagine, like, literally, what if they had an adaptation of Batman where he fights crime without a mask?
Yeah.
There's an equivalence. There would be massive outcry against that, just like there is with Halo.
What if there was one where it was Alfred who killed his parents and like raised him to be Batman specifically? You know? Tell you what, that actually does sound pretty cool.
I feel like there is an adaptation like that.
There might be.
Again, if you keep the core, you can still experiment with different things, but you have to keep the core for it to be recognizably the same.
Batman's parents dead and goes to be a villain.
They have changed so much in Halo that yes, it's not Halo.
Yeah.
Okay. The equivalence where you said, by the way, this is a whataboutism argument. He's trying to set up, they've done it in other things, which they haven't. That is not equivalent at all. But you've been okay with his other things, so you should be okay with Halo.
But the reason they did it in the other things is because there were many of the other things that were all the same franchise.
I say
there's only one Halo.
I say they haven't done it with the other things. They haven't removed Batman's helmet.
Well, no, but like they've made slight changes, very small changes.
But people would have been okay with small changes.
That's my point.
Yeah.
No, well, I mean, they would have been okay with small changes.
Yeah.
But like... Yeah, so my point is that there's many other, like, how many Iron Man comics are there? Reboots of Iron Man, you know? Batman movies alone. Of course they have to make small changes.
Yeah, and they experiment with different things, and you're right, because there's a lot of it.
Yeah, but there's one Halo.
Yes. This is not the time to try and reinvent the thing when this is supposed to be the official live-action adaptation.
Especially since they've tried to reinvent it 3 times, and each time they make it worse.
Exactly. Oftentimes when people try and reinvent something completely... it misses the mark. I think there's 1 or 2 examples where you might be able to say it worked.
Right there.
Do you reckon
Nolan Batman?
That wasn't a reinvention, though.
Yes, it was. Everyone was like, "Oh, this is a modern take on a realistic take on Batman."
Yeah, I think the core were the same. When I say reinvention,
before that we had Schumacher Batman.
Yeah, but when I say like reimagining, like I'm thinking like changing huge fundamental things, like because his equivalence is trying to make is the reimagining in the Halo TV show versus
Nolan Batman was a huge thematic shift. massive.
In darkness, yeah.
Absolutely.
I'll
look
give you
at Bat Nipples.
Yeah, but the core of who Batman is the same. His backstory and the theme, like the actual genre, it's an action comic book film.
Look, okay, so Keaton Batman at the end there, 89, and Nolan Batman, their Batmans are similar, right? But I'm talking about the thematic, like, look at bloody, what's his name?
Yeah, I know, they turned Batman into a bit of a joke in Batman.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I never leave the corridor without the house without my Batman credit card. Like, are you kidding me?
And look how popular that one was.
Yeah.
No, nowhere close. How many versions of Spider-Man have we had?
Yeah, and that's why there's changes.
The thing is, though, they didn't change the fundamental core of Spider-Man.
They didn't. Oh, it looks pretty similar. Well, in 3 of them, but even then.
And by the way,
that's Miles Morales.
Miles Morales
character.
isn't Spider-Man.
Yeah, nice straw man there.
He's Miles Morales Spider-Man. Spider-Man is Peter Parker. And by the way, they tried to kill off, Peter Parker Spider-Man to bring in Miles Morales, but guess who they brought back? They brought back the original.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we like Miles Morales is a good Spider, especially in Spider-Verse.
Spider-Verse was good.
Yeah.
Okay. And so that's actually not change. See, difference. Again, this is another example of a false equivalence, right? Miles Morales isn't trying to rewrite the story of Spider-Man. It's trying to add more to it.
Yeah.
Okay. And so they could have had a proper equivalence would be a great accurate Halo adaptation, like many of the previous Spider-Man adapted things, and then there's a new story that they wanted to add on top of it that explores different things that might be an identity crisis show. Yeah, then there would be far less backlash because they're not trying to rewrite and overwrite the lore, and especially if this is the only live action adaptation. And so if people were saying, like, seriously, if Spider-Man had no live action adaptation and we hear Peter Parker Spider-Man being in live action thing, and then we got Miles Morales and his story, or Into the Spider-Verse, people will be like, what the hell is this? I didn't order this. This is my spaghetti bolognese argument about adaptation.
I was thinking that at the very beginning of this, yeah.
It's like, it doesn't, if you order spaghetti bolognese, right, and they come and send you something that looks like spaghetti bolognese but tastes completely different, like it's it's an icing sugar. You know how they make icing sugar look like different food?
Oh, yeah.
They brought that out. Doesn't matter how good that icing sugar is. If it's not what I wanted, it's friggin' crap.
Well, if it's not what it says on the menu.
Exactly. Yeah. If it's definitely it's not what it's supposed to be advertised as. Sorry, if it's not what it's advertised as, yeah, it doesn't matter how good whatever you're trying to give me. It's utter crap because it's not what we wanted.
And it's funny, right? Because all the advertisements got me thinking. All the advertisements, and I see them all the time on Facebook. I always give them a laugh reaction, and so do other people, right? All the advertisements, it's literally action from the first episode and the 5th episode. There's no of what's really in the show, which is standing around, talking, moping and crying, and being sexually attracted to golden retrievers.
And on the note of, like false equivalences and stuff like that, he's trying to say, no one complained when they changed Spider-Man. Oh, yes, they did. The, what's his name? What's his name again?
Is it Tobey Maguire?
No.
I know him. Just say Zoomer Spider-Man.
It's
Tom Holland.
Tom Holland, okay. I was willing to accept it in Spider-Man Homecoming, but Spider-Man 2 was such a change of the fundamental core of who Spider-Man is. I was complaining Spider-Man 2 Far From Home is
call it
bad.
Spider-Man 2. It's Spider-Man Far From Home.
Spider-Man Far From Home. Yes,
awesome.
okay.
Yeah.
Spider-Man Far From Home is I hated, right, because of the changes they made to the fundamental core of who Spider-Man is. It wasn't Spider-Man, okay? And it's my spaghetti bolognese argument. And I also didn't like Spider-Man 3 Homecoming. Is it no Homecoming? No, it's No Way Home. No Way Home. No Way Home. Watch our reviews, okay? For the same reasons. So he's like, no one complained when they changed this. Like, yes, they did. Yes, they did.
Also, there was complaints back in the day with Tobey's Spider-Man having not web shooters, like
Yeah.
natural. That was a big thing as well. I remember.
And there were so many complaints about Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, they cancelled his 3rd movie.
Yeah.
So.
And still, like, that one, it can be easier to, even though I get why people would get annoyed with that, that one's easy except because it's not an attack of the core of Spider-Man, which is great power, great responsibility, and
I
many
agree
other
with you on
things.
that, just saying that when he says that people
there are still complaints.
backlash, there's still
And
complaints.
also, all these Spider-Men that he's showing here, they all have different sorts of names. That's Iron Spider. That's Spider-Pig. Is that what his name is? Spider-Pig?
Yeah, Spider-Pig.
That's Symbiote Suit Spider-Man. Like, they all have different names. There's clear distinction.
And he's showing a lot of different Spider-Man from different arcs in his own timeline. These are not like different versions of Spider-Man, one on a pot top another. this argument is framed very poorly and disingenuously. It's like he's trying to reach for any justification and is, but what about the whataboutism? But remember, it's all framed on a straw man. This is utter crap.
Again, comics, cartoons, movies, games, TV series. How many versions of Superman, The Incredible Hulk, Thor, Iron Man, Marvel characters, DC characters, even away from this, different versions or reimaginings of Star Trek?
Oh, what was that?
You sneaky bastard. Nice try there, bucko.
There's been no backlash for the different versions of Star Trek? Are you friggin' kidding me? Have you seen the response of the hardcore fans from the J.J. Abrams reboot and the Star Trek Discovery and Picard? They're all friggin' awful.
Also, they're all different stories.
Exactly. One of the biggest complaints about it is because of how much they've changed it.
Like,
if anything, the bring up Star Trek just goes against your point and supports people that there have been complaints against massive adaptations.
Yeah, most of those take place like more than 80 years apart from each other in this timeline of Star Trek.
So yeah, the original series, Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and even Enterprise, right? They kept the core of what Star Trek was. And so, were there complaints? No. The complaints are when there are massive changes to make it not the original thing. The Halo show is not Halo. And guess what? Picard isn't Star Trek.
Yeah.
It's been massively just rejected by the fans.
This doesn't even fit into his argument because these are all different stories.
Yes, exactly.
Like, these two, aren't they separated by 100 years?
I know.
Isn't this set like in the 2070s?
I know, Picard and Kirk. It's not adaptations of the same story.
Yeah.
These are just continuings of the story.
Yeah.
Your argument is friggin' bullcrap, dude.
Star Wars, Warhammer. Why are we so ready to accept the various versions and reimaginings of characters that have a much longer and more established history than Halo, and yet we're given a reimagined adaptation of Halo and suddenly it's not Halo?
Yes.
Yes!
That's accurate.
This is beyond reimagined. This is changing completely. And by the way, people didn't want a reimagined version of Halo. They wanted an accurate reflection of what Halo was. No one asked for a reimagined bullcrap thing that this came with. It's just so disingenuous. You're okay with all these other reimagined. No. When it's actual reimagining that it changes the source and everything like that, people hate it.
It's a fanfiction. It's trash. It's pretty hypocritical if you ask me.
Oh, screw you! Screw you!
I'll just,
hang on.
I come in in good faith.
I come in good
But
faith.
I'm going to frame a complete
Bullcrap straw man,
and then you're a hypocrite.
Come off it!
Oh, projection.
Oh, wow.
Who's angry after that?
No! Like, this is what... Because he legitimately came, I'm going to be good faith, I'm going to be respectful and everything like that. I want you to be as respectful to me as I am to you. And then you literally construct a straw man argument that no one's making, frame all these bullcrap false equivalent examples, and then accuse everyone of being hypocritical. Accusing... Because you're now equating the people who have been hating the Halo show with this argument, which they are not making, and then calling people who hate the Halo show us hypocrites as a result. Screw you.
Yeah, and even then, his argument doesn't make any
friggin'
sense.
Bullcrap. Call us hypocrites for a bullcrap argument you're imposing on us that we didn't even friggin' make. That's why people are getting aggressive. That's why there would be hateful comments, and you deleting them for those legitimate, valid criticisms is your own thin skin and deflection.
And yeah, maybe the adaptation and the changes are too much, and you don't like it for that. That's absolutely fine.
Apparently not.
You said
You just said it's hypocritical. Hypocritical.
It's hypocritical. It's very hypocritical, but it might be fine. Come on, man. Now it's trying to hedge.
Who's the hypocrite?
He's trying to hedge his bets. He's just called everyone hypocritical, but now he's just trying to soften the blow. But it might be okay. Then why'd you call them hypocrites?
There are things, as hard as it may be for some of you to believe, there are things I don't like about the Halo TV series. I don't particularly like Marquis' storyline at all, and her acceptance into the Covenant, whereby before, while the Prophets would occasionally use humans to achieve certain goals due to their knowledge of humanity's status as reclaimers, they always did so as an exploitation to further their goals and continued to treat us like vermin. Yet Marquis is the Blessed One and lives on high charity in the inner sanctum with the Prophets.
Wait a minute, what? Just because they added a human to the Covenant, you don't like that? Dude, don't be hypocritical. They make changes to stuff all the time. Look at Batman.
It's just a reimagining. Haven't you accepted reimaginings all the time? Why are you getting bent out of shape for that? The whole straw man argument you just framed that doesn't apply to people who are actually criticizing the arguments they're making is now applying to the argument you're making.
Yeah. Don't you like that change that they made for Batman when he raped and murdered Alfred? You know, the one thing that he would never do, the one thing he would never do in his life is rape and murder Alfred.
But that's actually a closer equivalence, because the one thing that Covenant would never do.
That's my point. Yeah.
Is take on a human and call her worship, like a sacred one or whatever.
Yeah, blessed one.
Blessed.
And he doesn't like that, so I guess we're hypocrites together now.
Actually, that's a point. I don't like the design of the inner sanctum either. I think it's too organic in nature. I mean, don't get me wrong, it has to be alien, and there has to be a degree of organic alien-esque kind of design. I mean, it's even said that there's a degree of predatory shark-like organic designs in many of the Covenant ships, which I'm sure we can agree on.
Oh, come on, man! Like it's
just another interpretation. Yeah. You've been okay with other changes.
Yeah,
why aren't you okay with this man?
Again, he literally has been okay with all the other changes. Right, but listen to his argument.
But the inner sanctum looks like the prophets live inside a giant cuttlefish or a bioluminescent jelly.
Yeah, that looks pretty organic and alien. They're just done to the nth degree.
I just find it pretty funny that he's made this whole big argument of saying you don't have... It's hypocritical to have objections to changes in source material when you've been okay with all these other changes.
Yeah.
That was the core of the argument he framed. It was a straw man, doesn't apply to us, but he thinks that standard is hypocritical. And now he is contradicting that standard by saying, I don't like these changes, that changes, but I'm okay with all these other changes. Yeah, that sounds a bit hypocritical.
Especially to visually frame that argument, he used different pictures of the different errors, which all look different. And now that this one's slightly different too, well, very much different, but it's still the same room.
Oh, yeah.
Bloody hell.
I don't like that Rhett was effectively recast to being a human who survived being captured by the Covenant rather than a jackal as he was originally. It could just as easily have been Rhett was just called a completely different name like Graham, and he'd have played exactly the same role and there'd been no bearing change on the narrative whatsoever.
But now extend that, okay?
Yeah,
why call it Halo if it's completely different?
People would have less issue if it'd still be a crap show because the actual writing is contradictory and garbage, right? But you got a point there.
It has more in common with Mass Effect than Halo, and I know Mass Effect lore.
And wouldn't that still annoy you though? If you see a character that's serving the exact same purpose of what a original one did, and the original one could have served that purpose perfectly well. It wouldn't have cost more. It wouldn't have been more difficult. In fact, sometimes it might have been less budget and things like that. If the change is made like that for no reason at all, wouldn't that piss you off? Because you want Halo, and they just decided to change it for no reason?
Do you know how... So in Mass
But
Effect...
the thing is, there is a reason they changed this.
Propaganda.
Who's playing the role? They want more diversity.
Pat on
right?
fake.
Like, it really feels like the only reason they would have made this change then is for an agenda.
Yeah.
They have a certain message or representation they want to fill.
And it's the same inconsistent reason they got rid of Sergeant Johnson, a beloved black character.
Which is, like, if you want representation, you've got this great character there. Why did you get rid of him?
Also, the voice of the Arbiter, Keith David, is black. And his voice is silky smooth. His other mate, Halfjaw, the shipmaster, he's Robert Darby. He's an Italian-American, like...
And then if you say, oh no, they needed to change it because the original one fits in a different context and everything like that, that goes to the bad writer. Like a good writer who's creative can figure out how... But just scrap the entire show. The show's narrative is crap. You could have had the original character that filled that role by just being true to the source material, but it is 343 material. Here's adhering to here.
But also, right, this show actually, and I'll be quick, this show has more in common with Mass Effect than does Halo, by far. Do you want to know how Mass Effect begins? You come to a planet and you touch an ancient artifact and it gives you visions and memories that seriously negatively affect you. Dead Space has the same thing similar, like, it has nothing to do with Halo. That doesn't happen in Halo.
I don't think that the partial nudity is even completely necessary, but I do understand the context as to why it's happening.
What? No, why? Tell us why. Because
it's unnecessary. Wait, just listen to that, right? I disagree with it because I think it's unnecessary, but I understand the context as to why. If it's not necessary, then
why is there a context that justifies it?
Exactly. Stop thinking you're a big brain genius. Bloody British.
Well, I mean, this is where we're getting an indication as to how insightful, I forget the guy's name, but the arguments have been horrible. Yep. They have not represented the true criticisms or even tried to address the true criticisms of the show at the moment. He's made a straw man, and then
contradicted himself
now
constantly.
He's contradicting himself. It's like, okay, what's the context as to why the nudity is useful? If you're just going to say, I understand the context of why it's useful, and then not tell us, it kind of feels like you're just making crap up.
Yeah, but he said, I think it's unnecessary, but I understand the context as to why it's happening. What is that then?
Is it like she's trying to explore her humanity when she's changing? Oh, look at me, I'm a person, I don't want to be a person. It's like, no, you could have achieved that without the nudity, so therefore there wasn't a context that required the nudity. So...
There is no context that required the nudity. You could have shown anything else.
Yeah, exactly.
If you wanted to.
Even in the books, humans usually come out of cryosleep naked because covered skin reacts badly to the cryogenic procedure. So again, it's not like nudity is a new situation for Halo. I just don't think it's particularly needed in this context.
This is another false whataboutism. That doesn't justify this.
That's from the books, though. In the games, no, Master Chief is in his suit when he goes to cryo. Halo Wars, people go into cryo in the altogether.
This seems to be his standard whataboutism so far. Yeah. It's like, you should accept this pointless, irrelevant, like absolutely needless nudity because there was nudity in another place that actually might not have been so pointless.
That was in a book, by the way.
That was actually might have been justified by the scene.
If there was like a picture, if you were reading a book and then it comes to they come out of cryo, but it's just a graphic novel of the nudity, just that one part,
like where it describes every single like when nudity is given in a book, it can be done in a very modest, non-pornographic way.
When you don't, they were naked.
Yeah, and the reader can just visualize that however they want, and they could visualize a way where it's covered like it would be shown in a show that was trying to be more modest.
Yeah.
I don't like that they've gone with the war criminal Halsey.
Dude, what do you like about this show?
That's all confused me.
No, this is very much, I'm with you, fellow kids. I dislike things too, but now this is all deflection to try and say, see, I'm not such a bad guy for liking the show when I dislike so much. No. Like, the show is garbage, it's not Halo, and just because you dislike these tangential side elements doesn't justify or validate the supposed defense you're going to be giving to validate all the crap in this show, the big changes.
But also, right, he's like, he called us hypocrites for disliking changes because changes have been done before in other mediums that have been lasting for decades, right? Yeah. And then he just goes through a long list of changes he doesn't like.
Sounds a bit hypocritical according to his standards.
At least on some small, shadow projection level, he recognises that he is a hypocrite.
He's either that or is pretty oblivious to what he's doing here. I mean...
I don't like that Keyes is now...
I don't like that Keyes is now... What? You don't like that he's now what? What's the difference between Keyes here and Keyes in the games?
So it's not that there's nothing I don't like about the TV show, it's just that I'm choosing to focus on the bits I do. And on the positivity of those experiences, I'm choosing to be proactive in my approach to the TV series rather than reactive. I can separate my expectations of the TV series away from what I already know of the universe, and instead accept the TV show for what it is.
But there's the thing, separate. If you didn't know anything about Halo, kind of like me, I didn't know much, right? The show is objective dog crap.
But why even take Halo into consideration if you're going to separate things you know about the show, the game?
I know, what's the point of even making an adaptation then?
No, but what's my point of him even considering it anything to do with Halo or defending it for the reasons that it's related to Halo? Because if this is the case, he can separate it, then what's with all the past arguments he's made this whole time, for and against the show?
Let it stand by itself and rise by its own merits.
He's trying to say, appreciate the show on its own merits, basically. Then again, what's the point of making the adaptation in the first place? Like, people of the original source material should get a joy out of this adaptation by comparison connection to see what they love adapted. But no, they're hating it. And if the only way to enjoy this is to completely divorce your understanding of the law, which is what he's saying, accept the show what it is. So he go back again. He chose to approach the TV show series and separate his expectations of the TV series away from what he already knows from the show.
Of the franchise.
So then what's the point of the adaptation? Because you're literally separating from all that you know?
Halo YouTubers tend to be extremely well versed in the lore. It's kind of a prerequisite of the job. If you don't know much about Halo, you can't really make content that teaches others about Halo outside of your own narrow band experience of playing the game. Now, I could be wrong, and I am totally willing for comments to determine if there is a cause and effect. But I believe, I hypothesize, I suppose, that the most vocally hateful and aggressive towards the show seem to be most familiar with the game and have less interest in the deep and peripheral lore that can be found in the books, deep dives into the subtle undertones of the games and the storytelling from the extended universe.
The deep dives into the subtle undertones of the games. Yes, that actually contradict the games.
Yeah, hypothesis. Yeah, there's no evidence.
What a genius! No, well, actually, I disagree.
But the thing,
he's kind of right.
Okay, but even if he is, the Halo games is what Halo is most identified with and reflects what. And so, the people he's trying to say that this Halo show should be less like the games and more like this other peripheral exploration things. No, that's not the expectation. That's not the promise. And what Halo is defined is set the tone by the original games. Yeah. That's why they were popular. The subtle undertones of the games.
Also, I know what he's referring to with the subtle undertones. It's the whole humans aren't forerunners thing. Anyway. If you say, I've studied the games, and the games say that humans aren't forerunners, yet multiple characters in the game say humans are forerunners directly to a human.
Yeah, I think the game lore would trump.
Would trump your stupid bloody retcon.
If your only experience of Halo is from playing the game, having a game character translated to a TV series and the fundamental changes that must take place.
No. There are not fundamental changes that must take place for a game character to be translated into a film adaptation. In terms of Master Chief could be a stoic, silent, with the helmet on, just as much. Okay, and he would be an awesome frigging character. This is bullcrap where he says the changes in the show were fundamental changes that needed to happen because of adaptation. That's bullcrap. No.
Imagine the Sonic movie, right, where he actually can't run.
Yeah.
For that transition to actually work is going to be disruptive enough to your expectations and experiences that it will easily be interpreted as a clear departation from the lore.
So if you have expectations from the games, you'll more easily interpret the changes of the lore. Yeah, obviously. But it's trying to say...
Yeah, that's a bad thing.
The reason why...
You're in the wrong for doing that.
More people hate this because of their expectations that they got from the games. And if you're only experienced with the games, you're going to notice the changes more, starkly. I didn't know the games. And just without even knowing a lot of the changes, it's a crap show.
Yeah.
I get it. I truly do.
No, you don't.
It really seems like
I hear you. No, you don't.
There is probably a way that the adaptation could work while still honouring what we experience of Chief directly through play.
Okay, so what it basically, let's try and strongman. It's like there's a way for the adaptation to work, but still honouring. So saying those fundamental changes still need to take place.
Yeah, what does honouring mean?
But you can take those changes and still honour. But yeah, exactly. What does honouring mean?
He said multiple times, we can't do this on TV without fundamental changes. There need to be changes. You can't have it go from game to television without changes taking place. It doesn't work, he says. Well, we could do it and still honour Master Chief that you play as in the game. Like, dude.
That's what we wanted, like fans have wanted in the first place. That's what the show hasn't done. But I'm interested, is he saying that, is this going to be acknowledged that the show hasn't done that either? He's like, but I could do it better. Like, let's see.
Him and honouring the wider lore. Game Chief could probably work on screen. In fact, it's likely he could work on screen. However, it would be extraordinarily difficult to do.
It's too hard. It's too hard. They're working so hard, guys.
Crap.
This is the same excuse they've had for 3 for 3 for 11 years.
Like, it was not hard. Okay?
Making games is hard,
Making
guys.
a stoic character that doesn't speak much and has a helmet on, that's no. You need some level of talent. It's clear the current writers don't have that talent, but yes, it can be done. Absolutely. It's been done before, and it's not so insurmountable that we just give up on it.
Yeah.
No.
Writing story is hard for you? Why you're a writer?
The expectation wasn't that high or hard with Halo. Have Master Chief be cool and shoot lots of aliens and cool action.
Yeah.
The entire show could have sailed on that alone and be fine, and they just worked off the blueprint of the games.
No,
they have a winning show.
That excuse, though, doing this, writing a good character... Like, listen to this. Writing a good character, Shad, is too hard for me. But you're going to like my story regardless.
Like,
bigot.
This is a difference in writing engaging plot versus needing engaging character to carry the story. You can have a character that's actually fairly passive, who doesn't change much or go through an arc, but it's going through interesting events and problems and trials, and that can make a show just sail. Because guess what? That's what James Bond was. James Bond is actually a fairly bland character in terms of his motivation and everything. They explore it some in the later movies, but James Bond is just a suave Brit who's can kick butt. And then he has bad guys, and he kicks up butts to the bad guys. He makes funny quips along the way. And James Bond franchise sailed on that for how many movies is in that franchise?
Like over 20.
Like, with Halo, all you needed, Master Chief, stoic, strong, kick butt, give a few quippy lines. That's the characterization you need. That's not complex.
Not even...
And then throw him in interesting situations, kind of like the games did, but frame it in a plot narrative structure of that's catered for film. Yeah. For instance, the first mission in Halo, where you crash land on a Halo thing and you've got to rescue all the other people before the Covenant come and destroy him, that's an episode right there. You have the problem, you try a thing, you have engagements, they do something to it. Oh no, there's one last group that we need to get before they destroy it. Runs in, Master Chief kicks up. Freaking awesome episode!
Yeah, and you don't even need to spend so much money. It doesn't need to all be battle. You can just have the Marines talking about what's going on, cutting back and forth, you know? Like...
It can all be battle. Shows with vastly less budget have had vastly more action in this show. Look at Stargate SG-1. The amount of gunfights in that there's action-packed everywhere. And people love it. And even though there are low, especially in the time, there's low budget effects and everything like that, the story and action was fun, we can get over it. I could have happily accepted a bit more low budget effects, even though the effects in this do not reflect the budget they had in the current show, because the effects are pretty crap. But I could have accepted it perfectly well if the show was just good. If it just had some fun action and things. Master Chief's character is not a hard character to do. It's been done in film and TV for ages. There are heaps of examples. Exactly. Pattern Master Clint Eastwood, right? There are multiple examples of people executing the Master Chief character archetype in film easily. To say that it's so hard, that was just bullcrap. You don't know about storytelling or writing if you're going to say that, okay?
Yeah.
Even if you're not a writer, you can just point to other examples, like James Bond, like the things that we've been saying here, to execute such a story. Master Chief's character in the games is pretty blank slate for purpose, but there was characters in actual TV shows that are also blank slates, and they go through interesting events and trials and action and things like that. Frustrates me.
I would posit to say that he's said less than 50 words in Halo 1.
Yeah?
Probably less than 100 words across the entire 1, 2, and 3. To say it's difficult to write a character who says 2 words every 10 pages? Are you kidding me?
Look at the movie called Soldier with Clint Eastwood. I believe, no, it's not Kurt Russell. Kurt Russell. Barely says a word, okay? Yeah. But he has his own actual arc of learning things, but... There's a template right there, okay? But you don't even... I actually think you didn't even need the arc of Master Chief connecting with his feelings like they had with Soldier.
They had it in 343.
But this is just...
All 343.
Just and stating it like you're saying it so authoritatively when it's so wrong.
So, if the narrative and the other characters are not supporting it at all times...
At all times? No, you don't need other characters to support this stoic side. Just have them kick butt. Throw them into a difficult situation, problem solve, and kick butt the aliens.
Yeah.
You got a great friggin' show.
Yeah.
And I'm afraid that just isn't practically possible when this series has to establish a little bit of world building.
Oh, crap.
But how's that even connected? We can't have a stoic Master Chief. It's too difficult. He needs to be supported, which is the opposite.
And he's basically saying the main character, you can't have a classic Master Chief if you need to establish so much lore and everything. Are you friggin' kidding me?
What the hell does that even mean? That's not connected. That's a non sequitur.
Completely new people to a rich and complex universe.
It wasn't hard. Halo 1 started off with a ship popping up in space, and the first words are, all I need to know is, did we lose them, Cortana? That's all it is. Immediately, you're informed that they're being chased by something, and they've fled.
And so mystery is sometimes a virtue in a story. You don't
Especially in Halo.
You don't need to tell everything at the beginning. Throw them into the middle of it like Halo 1 does, and just let them figure it out as they go.
Mystery was the biggest part of Halo. Oh, man, anyway... Dude, there's even worse arguments in this.
Without overwhelming them or oversaturating them with extravagant information dumps.
Wow. Our previous argument contradicts this. One, it would be wrong to give it info dump at the beginning. Use the mystery and let it drip feed the lore bit by bit. And you can have that through tangential characters, things that they find, the artifacts, whatever, okay, like that. But it's saying you essentially need if you really want people to like the show and have a proper Master Chief, you need other external things to saturate them with the lore and info dumps.
Master Chief was originally conceived as an empty vessel character.
Yeah, it's so hard to write.
Record, but...
You can do a stoic silent character that doesn't say much or everything, just kicks butt and takes names with a quip here and there.
Clint Eastwood's whole career was built on that for the past 120 years.
And again, James Bond is a good example that he is not a deep character. He's just a character that does cool, awesome things. But there are even more characters that you say less than James Bond.
Bungie, the original game developers, have said on countless occasions he was meant to be an empty suit of armour the player could inhabit. That's why he doesn't say much.
So just to let him know, right? Blank slate characters are also employed in literature for the same purpose, so the reader can feel like they are inhabiting the individual.
Yeah, because you learn the world with them.
With them, all right? But no, like an example of a character that actually was purposely written to be more blank slate, not particularly great and everything's for a lot of people to develop, it's actually Bella in the Twilight series. People have criticized Bella for being such a blank slate. Like, you can look it up. But it worked really well because those books were friggin' popular. Yeah. And the counter argument is that actually was a virtue in the books because the reader was able to just insert themselves into that position, okay? And so he
but
doesn't...
then for the movie, they literally hired a blank slate for Bella.
There are blank slate people as well, isn't there? What he's saying is just wrong. He's saying you couldn't have had the blank slate. Yes, you could have. The blank slate, stoic, quiet Master Chief kicking butt would have worked friggin' awesome for a show.
Look at Jason Bourne. Action guy who literally has no memory of who he is or how he can do what he can do. And it's probably one of the most thrilling spy movies ever made.
But he's referring to how little Master Chief says and interacts. But that
same thing with Jason Bourne. He says next to nothing in the movies.
Does he? I can't remember. But Master Chief would be even more so. But I'm saying
no. It's about comparable, actually.
You reckon?
No,
because that's the other thing. Maybe if he's emphasizing the blank slate of Master Chief too much, because Master Chief does say stuff, and sometimes he quips and comes back with a.
Well, not quips, but he'll say a badass thing like, "Why do you want to leave the station, Master Chief? To give the Covenant back their bomb."
That's cool.
That's badass.
There is actually far more characterization around Master Chief than I think is giving credit.
But if it was the TV show, I was like, for what purpose, Master Chief? Look, man, I don't feel well, and I want to go outside and just get some air and pussy.
No. You know the show Master Chief is like, because my family was taken away from me, I have to. Yeah. That would be what the show Master Chief would do.
Yeah, he'd cry about it.
And then after he threw the bomb, he would be like, I'm so shaken.
So if I did that, I'd be shaken. I survived that.
But that's not Master Chief. That's the point. And so, yeah, he's not acknowledging the characterization that does exist in Master Chief. He does have personality. He's not a complete blank.
That's why he doesn't say much, doesn't take off his helmet and reveal his face, and doesn't express much of his personality. He was a tool that the player could superimpose that.
That same tactic, like I mentioned, can be used in storytelling. It's been used in literature already. Come on.
Personality onto. They become the Master Chief. They become the Spartan, the super soldier, and humanity's greatest warrior. Because then it's no longer Master Chief is fighting the Covenant and saving humanity. It's me.
No, it wasn't really that. Okay,
Master Chief has a personality.
Yeah, but even as a kid, when I was playing Halo, I knew that I'm not this character. And when I say that, I mean, like, I didn't feel like, yeah, this is me doing this. I feel like, yeah, I'm playing this cool character. Like, I'm playing a character.
First-person shooter. Name a first-person shooter with a main character that has a lot of personality.
Duke Nukem.
The logic that you need a blank slate to feel like you're inhabiting the role of the character is also bullcrap, because there are lots of first-person shooters where the main character has heaps of personality that you feel like you're inhabiting the role. That's the purpose of first-person shooter, okay? And
even characters in movies that you're not playing, or in books, you feel like you can inhabit the character. Just based on you understanding their perspective and learning with them.
Even though it's a tactic that can be used, it's not actually necessary. I'm not saying it like you have to have this blank slate. But like we mentioned, Master Chief isn't a full blank slate.
He's not.
I am fighting the Covenant. I am saving humanity.
He's slowed down and is like... the music is trying to make it feel like he's saying something really poignant here. You're not playing Master Chief. You're playing yourself. You are Master Chief.
No, but he's trying to also do it for ad time.
You think?
Absolutely. Halo YouTubers have to stretch their content as thin as they possibly can.
That was how Chief was originally designed, and that is literally...
You're not saying anything groundbreaking here, and it doesn't validate the point you're making.
It makes it easier, rather than having to build a load of character development to try to...
You just said it's difficult.
No, it's difficult to translate to live action. He's saying it's easy to make this type of character for a video game, and I would agree with him in that. It is easier, but it doesn't mean you can't have that type of character in live action.
But they literally had cutscenes in the games where he is the same character.
Yeah,
so why not just cut the gameplay out? It's exactly... Let's just say, it's too hard to write this. Well, then don't be a writer if it's too hard for you.
But my point is that it's not hard to do this.
Yeah.
in the Master Chief character, much easier just to make him a husk that the player superimposes their own personality onto. However, this reality of the Game Master Chief meant that there was practically no way that the Game Master Chief could exist in any other media format without being either impossible to or completely flat and one-dimensional.
Okay,
Bullcrap!
the games already do that because there's the media. What do you call it? The media format. There's the game where you're shooting, and there's the cutscene where you're watching. Two different things.
And by the way, the only thing that has some sense of validation is the last point, that a character like that would be flat and one-dimensional. It wouldn't be flat, but it would be one-dimensional. A great example of a one-dimensional character is James Bond. But his movies are a hell of a lot of fun because what rides it is the action and the problems that he is faced with that he needs to overcome, okay? His character doesn't evolve, there's not many arcs with... and when they do, it usually falls flat, like when he tries to acknowledge, like, you know, they try and go deeper. It's like, we don't really need depth with James Bond, we just want fun action. This is one of the failings of the more recent James Bond, where he gets all moody and emotional and stuff.
Yeah.
Where classic James Bond is just him being suave and kicking butt.
Well, they kind of did that with, what's it called? Casino Royale, where his girl dies at the end. But then before the movie ends with him being like, oh, it goes back to him shooting the guy responsible for that and saying, hi, I'm James Bond, you.
Exactly.
Like, Master Chief will do the same thing.
Yeah, but we've already contradicted, but this is where he really makes it very expressed and everything, because it takes so bloody long for him to say this point, is that, and look, I take a long time to say my points.
Yeah, but you say it very quickly, actually, many times.
I do speak very fast, that's true. He is speaking slowly, which is... he says no practical way that the Game Master... There are heaps of practical
Because
ways.
it was done in the games, in the cutscenes.
Yes, yeah, he was enjoyable in the cutscenes. Perfect example. The cutscenes were cinematic, enjoyable, engaging.
It's a different medium. It's a different format to the shooting part.
You're absolutely right. The cutscenes are the different medium that is saying it's impossible to translate him into.
Literally in-game
and it's
movie.
already been done.
Yeah.
Come off it. The exact Master Chief has been translated into a cinematic format. The cutscenes, like, I've seen the cutscenes. You showed me the cutscenes. They're great.
Yeah.
Are you kidding? He is so wrong. So wrong.
Either
but it can't practically be done. It's either impossible to portray a completely
and one-dimensional. The only way that Halo could become a multimedia franchise
here we go. Here's the tagline.
was to adapt his characterization to fit the intended medium.
This is the line 343 have been saying. The 343 fans have been saying for years. Halo needs to adapt. Needs to change.
So hang on. So did Master Chief change in any way when they adapted him in the game to him in the cutscenes?
There is one difference, right?
What?
The difference is when you're playing as any character in Halo, that character doesn't talk. Unless you get to 343 error where it doesn't.
No, but Master Chief talks in the cutscenes.
No, in the cutscenes, but not what in gameplay.
Yeah, but what my point is that he is saying that Master Chief can't be adapted into cinematic film, live action, whatever, without him needing to change his fundamental characteristics when they already did it literally in the game cutscenes, and it's the same Master Chief.
Yeah.
They've already done it.
Yeah.
This is just, it's incorrect. It is wrong. It is fundamentally wrong, provably wrong,
It's just nonsensical.
objectively wrong.
This is not unusual. This has happened.
He's created a false standard. He's saying this is the problem with why the false standard doesn't exist. Again, people make stoic, quiet characters, one-dimensional characters, and they're full-on successful franchise to be done.
Varying levels of success, with dozens of popular franchises that all come from different medias but all become multimedia franchises. Again, this is beyond reproach or contestation. It is a matter of fact.
Oh, God. So he's trying to say heaps of franchises have made these types of changes where the character need to fundamentally change so it can suit a new medium. And then it's been done in multiple mediums.
Yeah, look at Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi.
But you know what's also done? Where they adapt things and keep the characters the same, true to what the original core was. And it works great.
He's saying that since there's going to be there's going to be multimedias, different types of media for this one character,
they're saying
it has to change.
The characterization has to change to adapt to different medias.
Yes.
No, it doesn't have to.
It doesn't have to
at all.
Especially since the so-called media that has to adapt is already contained within the thing that you're saying it needs to change from.
Cinematic live action characters interacting, like the cutscenes prove that it works.
Yeah.
This is not unusual. This has happened countless times before to varying levels of success.
All right, he said like characterization has been a character. Their characterization has changed to varying levels between many different mediums, and has happened countless times before. Give us the examples. He says countless times a character, literal characterization is changing because the medium changed. When in most often, like comic book to film, the characterization of Spider-Man, it's the same. Comic book, like Batman, all the examples he gave before about all these supposed... No, the characterization, the core of these characters are the same. The way the story is told, that changes. The characterization, when I say way the story, visual narrative with actual spoken voice versus like written, that's... So yeah, there's a change there. But you can translate many of the story beats really, really well, accurately, and the characterization doesn't need to change. And I wanted to hear the countless examples. But he's saying, oh, it's just done all the time. Well, the examples he gave before about all these medium changes is false. They didn't work at all. And that was applied to a different argument anyway. So I'm not seeing where, where that issue is. And I'm trying to think of a stoic, quiet character.
It doesn't. It'd be happen with any character. The character doesn't need to be stoic. It could be any type of characterization.
Yeah, but
you want.
His point is that Master Chief is such a blank slate that you can't have him change into a new medium without changing his characterization.
But we know that there have been characters done before.
Well,
right?
I guess the best example, right, of a stoic character, quiet character that's been, changed or not changed, that is taken into a new medium, is Master Chief. From the gameplay to the cutscenes. The cutscenes is a new medium, and it's cinematic, and you could have an entire show built to the same way.
I've gone through that already, but my point is, why is it specifically those two attributes, stoic and quiet? It can be any other any
you're right,
attribute.
it can. But he's assuming that Master Chief's stoicism and quiet nature is too much of a blank slate, that it wouldn't work.
Tell that to Dredd and...
Dredd's a good example. He's quiet and stoic, Dredd is a good example.
There isn't a game one, but I know Mad Max is pretty quiet in the most recent...
Oh, Mad Max is a perfect example of quiet and stoicism, barely saying a word. He doesn't go through a character arc or development. He is responding to problems that he needs to solve, and he solves it through creative means and action, and that's a great example.
And what's his name? Every movie with Clint Eastwood in it.
Yeah, but Mad Max in particular, because in the new, he barely says a thing. One of the early lines I was like, that's bait. That's it, because it's the meme. Great example there, Nathan.
Thanks, Google.
Yes, with dozens of popular franchises that all come from different medias but all become multimedia franchises. Again, this is beyond reproach.
See,
or contestation.
Really? It's beyond reproach or contestation. Where's your examples then? Because what you're saying is bullcrap. If we're challenging it and refuting it so easily, clearly it's not beyond reproach. It's very reproachable and contested.
Matter of fact.
It's just a matter of
adaptations to characterizations have to happen for a franchise.
For a franchise.
Wait.
To become
multimedia, or cross-platform, or whatever you want to call it.
Okay. But what I'm criticizing before, you're right. Adaptations to characterization must happen. I'm exaggerating it, but he is spacing out those words to a frustrating level.
He wants to fit in as many ads as possible.
But what he's saying is also fundamentally, utterly wrong. And what he's saying it in a categorical way.
Guys, to become molds is a matter of fact.
Yeah, okay.
We've gone over this before.
Adaptations to
characterization
have to happen.
Have to. That's saying must, essentially. No! Bull crap! What experience does it... You can... I can cite multiple examples of adaptations between me, because not even saying video game to film or TV show, it's just saying between media.
For a franchise to become
multimedia. So cross-platform. Okay, so comic book to movies. All the Marvel characters
book to movie.
Very they didn't have to change the characterization. The characterization is very much the same.
Or even movie to book.
Yeah, movie to book. Now, Harry Potter is the best example because they're actually changed the characterization that makes it worse.
Luke in the what's the Legends thing? Any Star Wars character in the book that go from movie to book.
That is utter bullcrap. There are multiple examples of adaptations between media, and the characterizations are exactly the same because of the same character. But he says they have to change. They have to change for it to be bull crap. Objectively false by multiple reference of adaptations and characterizations remaining the same between multiple medias. Okay? And then if you want to say, oh, I'm really referring to video game and live action, it's been done in video game and live action as well.
It wouldn't matter. His principle holds no water.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to call it. And this was done, and done exceptionally well, under a year after the release of Halo CE.
It was not done exceptionally well.
Halo The Fall of Reach was released in 2002, and it was immediately obvious
This guy's an
that there
idiot.
was no...
Okay.
This guy's an idiot. Okay, so he says this was his principle of it needs to change. This was done well in Halo CE, right? He just says after the release of Halo CE, Halo The Fall of Reach was released in 2002. No, it wasn't. Halo The Fall of Reach came out 2 weeks before Halo CE. In October 2001, October 25th, I think. Mm-hmm. And then in November 11 or 12th, Halo 1 came out. So no, you're wrong. You're meant to be a Halo lore channel. How close was I?
So Fall of Reach came out 30th October 2001.
Well, you're on the ball with the facts.
What about Halo 1?
15th of November.
Yeah, so 2 weeks later.
So, Lore Channel getting...
Yeah, and guess what?
We fact checked that in 2 seconds.
And guess what, bud? I only played the Bungie games. Okay, I played Halo 4 and stopped. Right? I only played the Bungie games. I only listened to one book from them, which is Contact Harvest, because it was written by the guy who basically invented this, Joe Staten. Mm-hmm. So, what are you doing, dude? Literally, quit your day job. Go somewhere where your skills are suited, like a McDonald's or a janitorial position.
No, I encourage him to get better at his craft and find more accurate argumentation. And he might find out that it's actually been wrong. And I've been wrong before. You just accept it and you try and get better. I encourage you to do that, sir.
And it was immediately obvious that there was no way the empty vessel character of Master Chief was ever going to work.
It was immediately obvious? What is it?
Immediately obvious
that there was no way
the empty vessel character of Master Chief was ever going to work in a novel.
Bull crap. It absolutely can work in a novel. You're wrong. You're just wrong. Because Master Chief is not a fully empty vessel character. He has characterization that's easy enough to work with, and you can absolutely make it work in a novel story. It's been done before. We've cited multiple examples. Look at Mad Max. He's basically an empty vessel character with only a quip here or two, and it's a flippin' fun movie, especially the recent one. Oh my goodness. You just don't know what you're talking about here, man. Come on. And if he's like, oh, but these other writers said those other writers are wrong. Okay?
So, since 2002, Master Chief has had his own personality.
Since 2002?
2001, dude. Like, look, sure, you're close to it with October and November, but you still got them completely mixed around. You should know that.
Master Chief had personality. Like, it wasn't him, but he had personality in the original games.
But that's the thing, though. The book came out first. Like,
really?
Fall of Reach came out... The book, Halo Fall of Reach came out 2 weeks before.
So the games are based on the books, or they just co-produce it?
They made the games, and then they're like, okay, they contracted a writer to write the book. He had 6 weeks to write it, and he wrote Fall of Reach to inform the story. Because it's called Fall of Reach, right?
Yeah.
Because Halo 1 begins, they're fleeing Reach.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's just backstory. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they gave him 2 weeks to read it, and then the game came out.
And if that writer felt that he couldn't work with the stoic, quiet Master Chief and everything like that, that's his issue, okay?
But he could.
6 weeks too isn't a very long time.
To write a book, yeah.
For a book.
But he had a lot of lore given to him. Yeah. He didn't invent a world. Yeah.
Master Chief has his own personality.
And story arc. In the novels, Master Chief has a personality. He has a dry sense of humour. He can be sarcastic. He can be emotional.
Wait. So you're saying the guy that said to give the Covenant back their bomb could be sarcastic? He's sarcastic? Like
that was an invention? Because you're describing Master Chief that I got the impression just from the games.
Yeah. There's a part in the first one where he has to destroy the Pillar of Autumn, right? And Cortana's like, how are we going to do that? And he picks up a grenade and just tosses it up to himself. Yeah, dry and sarcastic, of course. That's demonstrated in the games.
So attributing characterization to where it doesn't happen because because he needs that point that you just can't work with the game character. But even then, right, he's describing a characterization that happened in the novels that Master Chief has a character that wasn't translated to the TV show. Yeah. And so he's now acknowledging that Master Chief had a character enough to work with in a story, But then why wasn't that translated to the show? Because before he was saying the character that we know as Master Chief wasn't translated to the show because it had to change because of adaptation. You've just now contradicted yourself because now you've said Master Chief's character is perfectly fine with the story because it's done in the novels, but why wasn't that translated?
I don't know, Shad.
Oh my goodness.
He can be moved to tears. He can be boiling with rage. He can be scared and fearful. He can be unequivocally human. His personality is varied and interesting. His experiences have shaped his personality.
This is not I can't qualify what it's saying about Master Chief according to the book is referencing, but the character you're describing is not the ones in the show. Even if you're saying Master Chief can be scared or vulnerable, he didn't say vulnerable, but even if he goes to that area, the Master Chief in the show is only emotional and identity crisis and everything like that. The core parts of his character, the stoicism, the strength, the sarcastic, personality, the quip lines, everything, that's not there. That's not there in the show. But he's saying it was there in the book.
And how he responds to his environment and the people in it. It's all heavily influenced by his own character traits and his personal history. For example, in The Fall of Reach, the scenes with Sam...
Wouldn't it be great if we got this in the show? You're now just describing Master Chief has a personality and character. Where was it in the show?
The animated movie. He did this because he knew Sam would feel like he was failing in his duty, and if he had to admit to the group that he was going to have to remain behind.
Is this supposed to be defense of the show? We're just getting like lore of story now.
I don't know. He's trying to justify the point he just made, even though it's
contradicting it.
Think about it for 2 seconds.
Like the characterization you're now saying Master Chief. Basically, what he's trying to say is that he's trying to say Master Chief's personality had to change from game to book to give him more personality. When it seems like the book was just taking what the personality exists in the game already and just using it in the story.
What they knew about the character, yeah.
But this does not no way change and add what we got in the show, because you know what it actually proves is that you could make... I haven't read the book, but if this book is true to Master Chief in the game, which it seems to be, that just proves that Master Chief's character can be maintained from game through adaptation and could have been done in the show, which the show did not do.
This would have made him feel like he was failing his fellow Spartans even more. He did this to attempt to spare Sam
we don't care.
one final mission, telling her not to look
Even
back.
one final mission. It's like all this stuff is actually pointless. The point he's making is just saying, "Oh, look at Master Chief being characterized." Yeah.
But in truth, he reveals.
Bloody hell, man.
He said it. He'd have stayed with Sam, and duty were articulated through his personal characterization in the face of the flood.
Okay, so yeah, the one time he shows like active fear is when he's dealing with the thing that killed the greatest civilization that ever lived, like a thing that jumps onto your body and forces you to kill yourself and then try to kill everything around you, and also like rips you apart while doing it. Yeah, I'd be pretty scared of that too.
That was in the games?
That was in the games.
Master Chief has personality in the games?
Oh no, he wasn't scared in the games. Like in the games, like actually I mean, in the games, you were scared. The first time you encountered the Flood, I pissed myself as a kid. Because, again, it's like you're playing and fighting the Covenant, and then all of a sudden the Covenant are running away from something, and you go around the corner, and the thing they're running away from isn't there. So, like, what the hell?
Scared. But he allowed his training to take over. He acknowledged his fear. He pushed it aside, and he continued his brutes for the first time. The brute grabbed him.
Yeah, this is all...
And stronger adversary. He felt regret and sorrow at the sight of Grace, whom...
Yeah, okay.
And he didn't take any pleasure in activating her arm as both superiors and subordinates.
Okay, everything he's describing here is not describing like Master Chief of the TV show.
Yeah.
And if this is the argument to try and justify it, you're failing dramatically, because all you're showing is how different he is.
Yeah.
He's been pushed to anger on more than one occasion, with one being with the Covenant. Chief had a confrontation with... He was angry. The point I'm making here is that Chief being emotional, being angry, being sad, filled with rage, is not unusual.
Oh, wait.
What's stoicism, then?
Wait. Okay. There is a vast difference in scale and focus in the show compared to whatever the stuff you're describing here. I never said Master Chief should never be emotional, okay? I'm saying he should be more stoic, reserved, strong, and have just reflect what the thing was like. But the show doesn't get any of the core characteristics and then doubles down on all this bullcrap of him being emotional, identity, crisis, drama, bullcrap. This is total false equivalence of what you're trying to... He's saying, Master Chief was shown as being emotional in some of these media here, so therefore it's okay with him being emotional in the show. When it's like, no, like...
When he listed off like 10 different emotions and how he reacted, and then he's gone to like, oh, but there's only 2 modes for him in this. It's sad or pissed at Halsey. Those are the 2 emotions he shows. Oh, there's 2 battles where he doesn't show much emotion except for anger.
So by his logic, I should be fine and justified making an adaptation of Star Wars where I make Luke Skywalker this overly emotional, rage-induced, crazy man who just wants to kill everything and can't control his rage because there's that one scene in which he showed a bit of anger.
Yeah.
But it's justified because it's established that Luke Skywalker can get angry, and so I can just make him angry all the time in this adaptation. That's what the argument you're making, because you're ignoring the scale and also the fact that the show ignores crucial elements of his personality. It's like, this is dumb. But this is a stupid argument and it's wrong.
But also, it makes no sense because Luke Skywalker's thing was he recognized he had the rage, but he stopped. He's like, holy crap, I've got to stop this. This isn't me, right?
Yeah.
And just like you have the capability of murderous rage, that time we lost that recording, right?
Oh, yes.
But you're not like that all the time.
Exactly.
Only when people praise nunchucks.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah. But his logic is that they showed some small elements of this here, so that justifies you exaggerating that, having the main core descriptive character trait of this person in your adaptation. Bull crap.
Yeah.
It's just such a disingenuous argument. It's again, what about is
part of his argument has been. Everyone he's brought up. Ridiculous.
For the Chief. Unless the only experience you have of him is from just the games.
Oh,
again, the games have videos in the movies.
Yeah, and the examples you showed of the examples outside the games do not reflect the character of the TV show. They're vastly different. But you're like, oh, he's showed emotion before, so this bullcrap adaptation where he's an emotional wreck having mental breakdowns is perfectly fine.
Yeah.
And further to this, the plot point being driven here plays an important bearing on his characterization and future storytelling in the TV series. He has had an implant in his lumbar since augmentation, and thus since before he even saw active combat.
No, this is the games.
Has removed his.
Yeah, who is that? Is that supposed to be Chief?
No. As in, what he's talking about now is in the games. This is in Halo Infinite. Who cares about that? It sucks.
He doesn't feel pain. He doesn't feel sadness or empathy or rage.
None of that is in the games.
Or happiness. He can't even taste food. The chip is important because it's a narrative underpinning.
So it's talking about, the emotional suppressor chip is not game lore. It was in 343 introduced. Is that what it was?
I don't know if it's 343 introduced or Bungie introduced. I just know that it wasn't in the games. And the games are the only thing that really mattered to me. So
yeah, I'm not hung up on the chip thing or not, but what I'm annoyed at is that shouldn't be the total focus of the story. The story should be the conflict between the Covenant, the Covenant and humans and stuff. But they're making that the main narrative point.
And if it was the case that it was just like it was executed poorly, is what I'm saying.
Oh yeah,
right?
it was executed horribly in the show.
Even
the
if
show
it's
is
true,
absolute bullcrap.
Yeah.
He's never felt the powerful emotions surging through his veins in the heat of battle, and yet here he is, feeling all of that while also discovering he's been lied.
He's talking about like this is Master Chief. Is like, and here he is feeling all these emotions.
He's just playing footage.
Well, if I didn't know too much about, I would like this feels like a disingenuous framing because it's trying to say, see, Master Chief has acted fearful and afraid, and is showing a character acting fearful and afraid, and the context of this makes it feel like he's talking about. This is Master Chief. This is a backstory of Master.
Mexican dude isn't Master Chief.
Well, I know, but it makes it feels like he's chosen this almost on purpose to disingenuously frame like this is And if it's not, it was a poor choice because for people not familiar who only know the show and they have only seen the show and they wanted to see a valid defense and they see this, they might think, man, look at all the emotion that the games have shown Master Chief go through.
Well, he specifically, and I think he's done this for the entire video. Let's see if I can see any. Looks like for the entire video, for the entire video so far, he's only used 343 content. Why isn't he used? He's talking about Master Chief this whole time. He hasn't used Halo 2 or 3 or 1. Why is that? I'll tell you why. Because it'll remind people how much better Halo used to be than the crap we get now.
To all of his life. By Dr. Halsey, Captain Keyes, and the UNSC. He's feeling for the first time while also realizing he was...
And see, when he says he's feeling and he has this person being all emotional on screen,
Yeah, it's literally about to pop up with a very emotional thing for this,
Kidnapped as
for
a
this
child,
trailer.
replaced with a Flash clone, and his family likely died on Arandis 2 shortly thereafter due to a plague of sorts, which, to be fair, was probably even likely implemented by the officer.
You know what annoys me as well?
What?
You can show deep emotion without expressing the emotion.
Yeah.
You could have had a really powerful arc with Master Chief actually discovering his past,
Yeah.
that he was kidnapped as a child, everything like that, and you could just imagine if they showed it with his helmet on and his fist just kind of goes like this, and they do it subtly in a way that's true to his character. You can explore these things with Master Chief, but be true to the character of who he is. Instead, they've gone way off, base, and just like having him break down, helmet off, all crying, all emotional, like.
Of naval intelligence. This is an incredibly massive emotional burden to suddenly be hit with, even for a person who is fully emotionally evolved.
And it would have been really powerful if they actually maybe explored that with Master Chief being Master Chief, him handling it his way instead of rewriting the character.
Yeah.
In this instance,
Don't skip forward.
Chief isn't. And why is that even there? Why
He's
does he
like,
even
this
count
is
as
really
Chief?
friends
why
like
I
that's
said
Chief.
Oh, no, it's,
Is that Chief?
Because
no,
the
it's not.
future intentions
It's not
for
Master Chief.
But it's like in this instant, Chief is not thing, and he's got this person on screen.
The reason he's doing that is because he has to show footage from stuff that isn't related to Chief, because it'll remind us.
Like, if I didn't know the games, I would fully be assuming
Well, you
that this
don't know
is
the
showing
games.
Chief. I know, but like if
you are fully assuming.
That's you are correcting me, but like I said, I would fully be assuming that this is Master Chief and is showing the visual thing to bolster his point of look how emotional and unstoic Master Chief is really, it feels like really disingenuous framing here.
We've seen Chief question orders and somewhat go rogue so
see.
far in this series.
Oh, can we
Now,
skip
wind
to
back
removing his
the clocks
helmet?
to the build-up of Halo 5.
Well, I reckon we'll get to it.
Hunt the Truth was a phenomena. The adverts for Halo 5 were painting Chief
Yeah,
as
yeah,
the
yeah.
fallen
And the game was nothing like the adverts, and they admit this. In the adverts for Halo 5, they're building up this thing like Master Chief has gone rogue, and the UNSC is hunting him because he's doing all this awful, awful stuff. And it wasn't like that. He just went AWOL for a bit.
Going rogue was the most significant character development he'd ever gone through, and people were completely on board with fighting as Chief against Oni and the UNSC.
Yeah, that's why the game
Truth
was such a
series
success.
was showing that while Oni were
And this is,
painting him to be a traitor, he was on a
Everything
higher
is he's just giving
mission,
examples
a
of
higher
Master Chief
purpose.
doing this, Master Chief doing
His
that,
actions that were being
being
portrayed to the
different
masses
and
as an
not a blank
assassination
slate.
against
When
political
first, I don't think he was a blank slate in the original games anyway, but this is just nowhere, anywhere close justify his characterization in the TV show. Not even close.
Representatives
This is
and
all
delegates
bullcrap.
of the human
So if it's just going to be giving
peace treaty,
other
that's
examples
all
of
it does.
Master Chief
Killing humans
doing,
in take
we
down
could all
is
skip
the
this
elite
part,
and
'cause-
human delegate franchise. And while that wasn't quite, so looking at that,
Anyway, no one
and
liked
thinking
Halo
of
5.
The option to
They
pursue
completely
it down
cut the
line.
story
Halsey,
after Halo 5.
Keys.
And so this is
UN
just showing like
relationship alongside
different
the
stories
sympathy
of Master
towards
Chief
Squad
doing stuff.
and motivations
Do you want to know
to
how
save people
bad
from
343 is at
harm.
making
Very
Halo
well
games?
seems she
They have killed and revived Cortana with every game they've made. Every single one.
finally going on that awesome story arc of rising up against Oni, Halsey, and all of the dark, despicable things.
But even with Master Chief rising up against all these, was he like crying and having emotional breakdowns, having literal physical, mental delusions and stuff?
But also he's wrong. He's never risen up against Oni. Like, sure, that guy might be, I think, related to Oni agents, but he's not even trying to do anything against Oni. He's just looking for Cortana.
This is such disingenuous whataboutism because it's a false equivalence. It's like
it's not even consistent with Halo lore, and
I
he's a
know.
lore channel.
Yeah, and even the Master Chief in these examples is not the Master Chief from the show, but it's like, because of these changes, well, like I said, that justifies you depicting Luke Skywalker as this brutish,
Yeah.
dumb argument.
Batman, the rapist of Alfred.
Chief will finally become the justifiable freedom fighter for humanity.
He wasn't a freedom
against
fighter,
the
he was fighting for
all-seeing
survival, he was a
Iron
soldier.
Man. And the TV show, they're given the chance.
Maybe we will finish it because if so much of his waffle is pointless crap.
Endless waffle.
We maybe will get, because all the rest of that segment we just skip because and we're confirming because each one I'm paying attention. Is he on the same? Yes, he's on the same point. Is on the same point, and.
Next up, Master Chief taking off his helmet a lot
yes.
in the TV series. This is a major complaint from a lot of people.
Yes.
But the reality is that it's not unusual. In the extended lore, he takes off
Oh,
his
it's the
helmet
extended lore. Well, we've already talked
No.
about what.
He contradicts himself so bloody stupidly and obviously in this part, man. It's ridiculous.
But we've already said, like, it's obvious that the primary thing that represents Halo is the games. That's the one you need to make it more like, not the extended lore, not the stuff
And
that
he brings
people...
it up, but he still contradicts himself.
Not the stuff that people barely are familiar with. If you want to reflect to make it feel like Halo, that's the template. Work off of the games. And the games, he keeps his damn helmet on.
Yeah.
It's safe to do so. We never actually really see him take it off in the games, because it's not safe to do so.
Wait
He's in
for it.
combat,
No, wait, just
often
wait.
on his own, and thus doesn't have anyone
So it's not safe to do. He doesn't take it off in the games because it's not safe to do.
there to watch his
But the thing is, though...
You've seen the cutscene where he keeps it on the whole time in the space station.
No, but he's trying to say that, like, he keeps on the helmet when it's not safe to do so.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
in the show, he literally takes it off in multiple
battlefield.
places where it's really dangerous to do so.
Yeah.
They're not even consistent on that front. If you're going to try and justify it, you can take it off when it's... no, they are so desperate to take that helmet off, he does it in the most brain-dead, stupid places.
Yeah.
The only times we see it is when he knows for matter of fact that it is safe to do so.
No, because you think he'd be pretty safe in a Navy ceremony, getting medals and stuff, surrounded by all of his other Navy mates, and he's still wearing the suit and the helmet. You saw that cutscene, right?
And in the show, when he's just fought this Covenant invasion and he hasn't confirmed that all the enemies are dead, he takes it off then in the show.
Yeah.
Mate, your points are just, they're wrong.
Yeah, and then in Halo 3, when he's inside the ops center, surrounded by more of his people, inside a bunker in a mountain with his people, still wears the helmet.
At the end of Halo CE, when he is safe and alone aboard the Longsword after destroying Halo, all enemies nearby have been killed by the blast, the Halo's been destroyed, and the
Okay, that's not even true either. In the game, they actually use the camera mod to fly the camera back in. You know what happens when he takes his helmet off?
What?
There's another helmet.
But even if we're trying to take this like strongly in his argument and everything like that, he takes it off, but the game goes out of their way to not show his face.
Yeah.
There's a reason for it, and it creates a mystery around Master Chief, and it's not just for the blank slate narrative. Okay, there is this mystery about this guy behind the helmet, which is one of the things people love about Halo, and you absolutely could have done that brilliantly for the show. And we've already covered this in our reviews. There have been heaps of TV shows where they never show the character's face. Look at V for Vendetta, right? Guy behind a mask the whole time. All the characterization you need, and even if it's a more stoic person like Master Chief, you still would have been able to pull it off, just like James Bond. It's just make James Bond or Mad Max with a mask. You would have been great. Like it's bullcrap to say that you need to take the helmet off because of personality and emotion. No, that's false.
Floating alone in space was the safest he had been since climbing out of his cryopod.
Yeah, being in the middle of space in a bombing ship is very safe.
You could actually duplicate this in the TV show. Have like things where it looks like Master Chief's taking off the helmet, but don't show it, just like they don't show in the game for the same purpose. Maintain the mystery, okay?
Yeah, and they do it here. He shows it multiple times, but he
Aboard
just
the
disregards it.
station.
Yeah,
He's receiving his armor.
You're right. Like the main point about that is not that he took off the helmet; it's that they still hid his face, even when they took it off.
Yeah.
It's kind of necessary to not be wearing armor, and more importantly, his helmet while that upgrade happens. But he is also aboard a Supermac orbital defense platform, the single biggest and most powerful weapon the UNSC has ever created, surrounded by hundreds of fellow soldiers in a cluster of 2 other orbital defense platforms.
Yes, that's
in
pretty
orbit
safe.
around
We agree.
Earth, where over 300 other orbital defense platforms
helmet
and
off,
hundreds of UNSC
puts it on,
battleships
doesn't
guard
show his
the
face,
human
and then he
homeworld,
wears
the
it
single
throughout
most
the entire
defended
mission.
human colony
The
in
entire game.
galaxy.
Yeah, and look, if his argument is that there are examples of him taking off the helmet when it's really safe, there are a vast amount of it. You gave the examples of him keeping the helmet on when it's completely safe as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also,
and if anything, what he just showed proved that the point of it is to still hide his face, even when the helmet's off. That was a cinematic cutscene. Did that cinematic cutscene still work without showing his face?
Yep.
Yes, it did.
Also, he just called Earth a human colony. Now, come on, man. You overlooked that?
At the close of Halo 4, he takes off his helmet and armor because he's
Halo 4 armor's like
undoubtedly
crap.
due an upgrade. And he is also on the UNSC Infinity, the single most powerful warship humanity has ever created. that can
These
power
arguments are not
Covenant
working.
ships
He's
like
just
any
saying, a helmet taken off in game, so therefore you should be... No. Like, it's not necessarily the helmet taking off. The issue people have is seeing his face. That's the complaint.
But even then, he's wrong, because he's just said he's on Earth, surrounded by all the defenses, blah, 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 on a spaceship. Of course he takes it off. But no, he took it off to get an upgrade and then put it back on and wore it for the rest of the mission. And then he's like, and then when he's on this other ship, perfectly safe in space, of course he takes it off. Like, dude, they're 2 separate, completely different things. Idiots.
tissue paper and can even take on Forerunner warships. In the start of Halo 5, he's in a Pelican with his fellow Spartans, hundreds of thousands of kilometers of empty space between him and his nearest enemies.
By the way, seeing his eyes before wasn't seeing his face, so I just want to point that out.
You see the point I'm driving at. In the books, he removed his helmet numerous times.
Did we see his
over
face in the
career,
books?
including Castle Base on Reach, an underground UNSC and Oni fortress buried under Menachite Mountain on humanity's...
So, yeah, we see the point you're making, and you're dodging the issue. Again, instead of actually addressing the problem people actually have, he's ignoring it, making it strong. It's like, oh, no, he's taking off the helmet all the time. Ignoring the fact that they never showed his face still.
I ignore your problem and substitute my own.
military stronghold world. In the book covering the events of Halo C, there was actually scenes described...
Is he just going to go through multiple examples and take the helmet off now? Does he have another point to make?
Within a Forerunner structure, that the Chief takes off most of his armour.
Again, all he's doing is saying,
That's not
okay,
in dispute.
He builds a straw man, and then he tries to justify that straw man with either, what do you call it? What's the one I'm looking for? Contradictory points from the book.
I know, like, we've been complaining that it's been taken off his helmet. The issue being is that as a result of him taking off his helmet, we see his face.
Yeah.
You could have heaps of scenes where he takes off his helmet and just don't show his face, and then we would have been fine with that. The issue is the face, because Master Chief has always been this mysterious character hidden behind the mask. And you know who Master Chief is? It's the mask. That's his face. The identifying thing is the mask. Don't take that away, because then it doesn't feel like Halo. This is why this character in the show is not Master Chief. Doesn't feel like, not the way he's acting, but he doesn't look like Master Chief, because the main visual thing we identify Master Chief, his helmet, is barely ever friggin' seen.
Yeah.
And in Oblivion, he's found not wearing his helmet. In the comic,
Yes, we get it.
surprising adaptation of the Master Chief needs to be more expressive.
No, he doesn't!
Oh yeah, he goes on. He says that you can't show all of these emotions and build these emotional scenes unless he takes. Like I showed you one. Remember when Johnson died?
I know. Body language can convey very powerful emotion, and that we talk about this in one of our reviews about when you have a character that doesn't express a lot. Small little cues, emotions, facial things, but even body language is like a nuclear bomb. They did it with Spock. Spock barely emotes, but because he barely emotes, suddenly, lifting the other arm around, turn the head, can just hit like a hammer, okay? And you can do that with body language where they've done it multiple times. Absolutely, characters can emote powerfully without ever seeing their face.
Yeah.
And if you say contrary to that, you don't know what you're talking about. You're flat out wrong, objectively wrong. There are multiple examples of that we can appeal to prove our point.
And not just that, right? But also the music. This is a visual medium, right? It's a movie, right? The music informs the emotion of the scene too. Like when Chief finds Cortana in the ruins of High Charity, right? Or when Johnson dies, the music swells and hits you with an emotional burst. And then there's very subtle things that also, it all comes together. But for this, he's just sad and mopey all the time, and there's nothing compelling about it at all.
Yeah. Look at V in the fight scenes where you see him struggling and his fighting and his breathing. There is heaps of characterization, emotion. What about the scene where he's play fighting with his sword fighting in the thing, and he's being playful and everything? His face is masked the whole time, but the emotion and the energy and the characterization just flows out of him.
Yeah, or when he tortures Evie to get her to be more strong.
And now he hates himself.
He goes to step forward to her, and then she recoils, and then he's like, it's just so bloody powerful. Or when he smashes his mask, and you don't see his face still, but you hear him sobbing, and you see him cover his face.
Dude,
that's. It's too hard to do that.
Too hard. You have to show his face.
Retards.
Gosh.
Bloody hell.
This argument is utter bullcrap. Which I've read so far because the TV adaptation of the Master Chief
needs to be more expressive.
No, it doesn't!
And narratively interesting.
No, the people making the show need to be better at showing expression. They need to be better at writing characters' expressions.
Gosh.
Also, I would say with the helmet off, he isn't that expressive either.
Exactly. You're right. He's playing his mopey face.
It's funny, right? Someone commented in a thread, the most expressive he is when he's beating the crap out of the Ellie, right? Helmet on.
But don't they show an inside view of his helmet?
The point stands.
I don't even want to see that face on the inside of the helmet.
Still be all of these things while still wearing his helmet? Yeah, absolutely. But it would require the constant support of all other characters.
Bullcrap! No!
Why would it require the support of other characters?
No! Just his body language can convey emotion. Come off it.
V did it abstract ways of articulating the emotion, tension, stresses, and reliefs. So it's easier and more engaging for the viewer to be...
So it's easier? Oh, so you think the viewer is stupid? No, you're the one that's stupid.
No, it is not necessarily more engaging. I think, like, they were absolutely right with V for never showing his face. Yep. It was more engaging by not showing the face. Gosh, and you don't need... Like, V is a very emotionally expressive character, but you don't need that. Look at... your best example that you gave, Nathan, was Mad Max, okay? He was... barely said a word, not emotionally expressive, but you can have a great killer show by just throwing this cool kick butt character in a interesting situation, see him overcome the obstacles and kick butt.
Even at the emotional the emotional peak of that movie, he still doesn't change his expression at all. When Furiosa starts dying, so at the quickly, the beginning of the movie, right? He's a blood bag, and he hates that. At the end of the movie, when Furiosa's like dying, the emotional music swelling, he chooses to give his own blood to her, and it's like, my name's Max, but his face doesn't really change.
Yeah, even the end of the movie where he just kind of just nods and does the thing.
This guy's no idea what he's talking about.
The faceless super soldier armor with a wholly human element.
Ooh. What? Like what? Bloody?
You're saying we can't humanize people because we can't see their face? That's an assumption, and that's not very charitable. Like, we absolutely can humanize people behind, masks. I don't need them to be like me. They're a person, and they're going through struggles and everything like that. I don't need them to have a face. I don't even need them to be the same skin color or anything like that.
But also, it's not up to us to humanize them. It's up to the writers to humanize them.
And they can do, and there's multiple examples of being able to do that without seeing a face. I mean, we can grow emotional attachment to animals that don't have expressions, to inanimate things like pencils. Yeah, Oz once told me, like...
It's from Community.
Is it?
Yeah. It's the same way I can pick up this pencil, tell you his name is Tim, and go like this.
Exactly, that's right.
But another character from Halo, Guilty Spark 343, right? He's a floating ball. And the only thing about him that moves is he's got a little eye light ball that moves inside the lens, right? That's it.
Yep.
And he still is very, heavy. He has more characterization than Master Chief for the most part,
Oh, man.
Within. Imagine, for example, let's just hypothesize, let's say Master Chief was given the news that all of the rest of Blue Team were killed in action.
Well, they are in this show because he's in the Silver Team.
He's going to say, how could you convey the intense emotion and loss without showing multiple ways?
I showed you the one. Again,
yeah.
Johnson dies.
When Johnson dies. Gosh.
In an episode of the TV show. Or better still, imagine...
that you made a mistake. There's an episode of the TV show.
They don't exist in the TV show yet.
But all the characters are so low to them that...
Except for Vanek.
We would almost be celebrating and would expect Master Chief just be like, thank gosh, I've been so sick of him.
I just want Vanek to literally bitch slap everyone in the show. Everyone that isn't him.
Shut up! That'd be great. Just give it an episode, character after character. You're a freaking idiot. Shut up.
You know how Master
You're
Chief...
an idiot. Shut up.
You know how Chief goes around complaining to everyone? I wanted to see him try that on Vanek. You're a bitch, Master Chief.
Sorry, it reminds me of the Chris Rock movie where he runs for president and he calls in like his uncle, cousin, brother, whatever, to be his vice president. And so he's getting off the plane or off the car and you get all these reporters come up to talk to him. And at first there's this guy and he just goes, slap, smacks me out. This female reporter, slap, smacks me out.
Oh, man.
Oh, it's funny.
Classic.
He witnessed it happen himself and he couldn't do anything to prevent it. And the shots we got expressing Chief's feeling of immense loss and grief and emotional turmoil at seeing the loss of some of his oldest friends, his fellow Spartans who trained with him since the age of 6, who he views as his blood, his family.
Get on with it!
Imagine if the shots we got to express his feelings were this.
Okay, that is the look. I'm going to quickly cut to it.
No, wait. No. He's constructed such a bullcrap premise. Like, if it was just this, yeah, that would suck. But there are so many creative ways to show emotional loss enough with the helmet on without it just literally being a still frame. This is such a disingenuous bullcrap thing. Like, no, but he doesn't show this, right? Yeah, that's not his example.
So my point is that they literally do this, right?
Don't let him go.
No, but they don't do this. He's trying to say, imagine if it was just literally him.
Never let her go.
Listen to that music. It builds the bloody scene. It literally...
But you know what they've done here? No, go back.
What,
no, go. See, no, go back to the other one. All right. So, all right, they have made a camera angle which has made his visor look bigger, like he's looking with sadness or anything. They do this with Spider-Man and his eyes, right? There are actually ways to try and angle the camera to make the helmet look like it's expressing emotion, okay? Like, again, if he was angry, you could tilt it down and have the visor go down across his brow. Up can look like you can emote even with a helmet, all right? And even if you don't, body language and everything. This example is such utter straw man bullcrap because you're right, that is crap. They're not doing that. There are ways that you can make emotion come through. It is like, imagine if Master Chief with his helmet on saw the loss and he punches a wall in frustration or something like that, falls to his knee. There are any number of ways to convey emotion, but he's trying to say you can't have a satisfying emotional payoff unless you see the face.
Yeah. Look, this guy's just an idiot. He's just an idiot.
A cut of Chief's visor just looking at the camera.
Yeah, that would be stupid and dumb, but who would just have that? He's trying to say it's one or the other. You either have to see his face in emotion or see this.
Yeah, it's just
come off it.
How does that give any emotional context whatsoever? It could very easily.
Of course you've deprived the situation of context.
Exactly.
You've just said, what if there's a sad situation and all they show is this? You've deprived the context. In the games, it has the music.
Yes.
It has the fact that you've just seen the dude die.
It has the body language, has his hand and everything. You've cut out, it's such bullcrap. It's like, it's only this or that. Come off it. Come friggin' off it.
Here's the crazy thing.
If the only way for your argument to have any level of validity is this level of disingenuous represented bullcrap, where you can only have this option as a result to try and validate your argument friggin' sucks!
But he literally said, let's hypothesize this, and then built this situation, right?
Yeah.
Well, we don't need to, because his thing is, okay, what if something really sad happened and it only showed his mask? Well, we have seen that in the games. I just showed it, and something really sad happened. It only showed his mask.
But with the framing and the angle that you're looking at the mask and the music.
Yeah, no, but the point he's making is just the mask.
Just the mask.
No, it's not just the bloody mask.
Yeah, you're right. But like I said, the music, the framing of the camera angle, the body language, just the position of the shoulders in relation to the helmet, if it's down like that, if it's up, that all conveys stuff.
Yeah, but he's saying it can't be done. It has been done. It was done in the games, and we just saw it.
Interpreted as apathy. A completely two-dimensional characterization.
You can only consider it as
stoicism to the point of disinterest.
Yeah, you would say that. Toxic masculinity, all that.
Having Chief's gold mirrored visor just staring away at the middle distance for prolonged periods while others are talking and he's just kind of there isn't very engaging and doesn't attach the audience to Chief's character and doesn't easily articulate Chief's thoughts and feelings and motivations.
One, you don't need to always articulate it, but two, I don't think he's always doing that in the games either. Does he do more sometimes in cutscenes?
He does more of that in the show.
What do you mean?
He probably does more.
Oh, where he just stands there,
standing there doing nothing while things happen around him. Like, look at the bloody... Oh, he's going... Like, remember when he cuts the thing out of his back and then he goes out and walks around the town and he just stands and stares at things with no change in his emotional thing apart from, maybe I want to that dog there, you know? Like, that's it.
Oh, yeah.
Emotions or goals.
This is so disingenuously framed.
Expressions. Not the empty suit of armour the player moves around in.
Because there's no other way to
develop
convey
an
expression or
attachment
emotion.
to the game Master Chief, because ultimately Master Chief becomes you, and you superimpose your own personality onto him. And since we're generally speaking very attached to ourselves...
Yeah.
So question.
That's informed by the context of what you're playing through.
What if you're like a really bubbly, happy, funny guy that can't stop talking and everything like that? Do you reckon they feel like they've superimposed their personality into Master Chief in the games?
Probably not.
No. This idea that the blank slate allows any, No. And the other thing is, again, Master Chief still did have a personality in the games.
Yeah.
And you can pretend you're taking the role of another person, feel like you're in their shoes, even if they have a personality, like Duke Nukem, like Dungeons and Dragons. You don't always play yourself. You create a whole new character that it feels like you're inhabiting. Okay?
That connection between the playable character on screen and ourselves is very easy. It isn't that easy for a character we can't control, and the only context we get...
Actually, it is. It's really feel like you're in the... When I'm playing, Tomb Raider and stuff and everything, the game is intended to make you feel like you're in her position, going through these trials and stuff like that. I'm not a woman, but still I can feel like I'm in...
Yeah.
It's the same with playing a role-playing character in D&D. You absolutely can feel like you're inhabiting someone who's different and different personality. It's just
is
utter
a gold-ear
bullcrap, this.
advisor and a gravelly voice. More needed to happen.
This guy actually hates Halo.
These are kind of some of the
He's
major
reaching
complaints
desperately to validate, and
criticisms and arguments
his examples are
that I've
horrible as
heard.
well, because all these are just trying to, they're whataboutisms. It's like, oh, you need emotion. Even if you needed emotion, the emotion conveyed is not accurate to Master Chief. Oh, Master Chief's taking off his helmet. One, false equivalence, because we're talking about the complaint about seeing his face, not say removing the helmet. And two, it's completely divorced from the original Master Chief anyway.
He's reaching, yeah. So he's got a case of Halo reach.
Across practically every corner of the internet. There are other arguments, of course, but generally speaking, they're pitched in a more constructive way. And I can completely understand where those individuals...
So he's saying the arguments about the helmet are not constructive, because there are other arguments.
He's saying there are complaints, but there are ones that are in a constructive way, and there's ones that aren't.
are coming from.
Like the beginning
But
of the
it's
video.
these kinds of arguments that have no foundation.
No, they're saying these arguments. The arguments about his personality changes and his helmets have no foundation. There's no basis.
He's moved on to a new
Unfortunately, seem to
chapter.
be the
He's
most
talking about all
vocal
the complaints.
among our community that are the big problem at the moment.
He's saying those are the
I mean
voices
a
that are
big
big problem. Yeah,
problem.
The voices who are saying everything you're doing sucks are the problem. You know, you need our voices because otherwise you silently would be playing Infinite alone with 1,000 people, even though the game's a year old. You know, and us 2,000 people will be playing Halo 3 and be happy.
I want to go back to what I was saying.
Pitched in a more Greek and criticism. These are kind of some of the major complaints and criticisms and arguments that I've heard across practically every corner of the internet.
All right, so no, like he's referring to the arguments he's addressed
He's
already.
referring to all the ones he just said.
Yeah,
before.
exactly. That's exactly what I mean. So the helmet, the
story,
emotion,
everything, yeah.
and the story changes, and all those things. And so these are the arguments that is heard across every corner of the internet.
There are other arguments, of course, but generally speaking, they're pitched in a more constructive way.
So it's saying there are other arguments separate to the ones he's addressed that are more constructive. So it's saying the arguments he's addressed about the helmet and everything are not constructive, but you haven't even really addressed the true core problems of the arguments. And so if you want to be constructive, how about you actually address the issues that the fans really have instead of trying to sidestep it, make straw man, address that, and you haven't addressed anything then. It's like, that's almost the definition of being constructive in a constructive argument.
Yeah.
Making straw mans and avoiding the issue, the actual argument people are making.
And I can completely understand where those individuals are coming from. But it's these kinds of arguments that
Keep
have
saying
no
individuals. No, majority. Where the majority of people who have played Halo and then watched this show hate this crap. Except for you because you're coping.
foundation that unfortunately seem to be the most vocal among our community that are the big problem. at the
Yeah.
moment.
So they've always hated the Bungie fans because they've wanted to get rid of us since 343 took over. But they're not going to because Halo's our thing, not yours.
And I mean a big problem.
Big, whoa, we're going to fly a bloody plane into a building or something?
Not just because it's not constructive, it's not adding to the narrative, it's not helping fix the
Adding
problems.
to the narrative. Mask slip there.
It could help fix the problems if people actually listen to it.
Yeah.
Okay. It is adding to the narrative because these are legitimate problems that deserve to be acknowledged and heard.
Well, it's not adding to their
the ones
narrative.
that he's actually tried to sidestep, all right? Where it's like, he says, oh, no, he's taking off the helmet for... That wasn't the issue. It was seeing his face. It was having the mystery of Master Chief, okay?
But because, as I said earlier on, I've seen the worst of this community come out through these kinds
It
of
ain't
comments.
us.
No, he'll think it's us. We've been pretty aggressive.
No. My point, like, I'm engaged in this community. It's the 343 fans who troll and, okay, I'm going to bleep this, up the threads with all these things that don't make any sense. And, like, the 343 fans are the most toxic bloody people you would not believe. It's insane.
Yeah.
I've seen people threaten each other. I've seen people calling each other names. I've seen people bullying each other. I've seen death threats. For Christ's sake.
Show us the death threats, and
Yeah.
if they're genuine and sincere and not done in sarcasm and just, And by I've gotten death threats. I've had people in person threaten me, and you understand if it's serious or not just by context, okay?
Yeah.
And most of them is just like they're being idiots, okay? But anyway, look, we're not I think I would never threaten someone with death, and I think it's really immature and stupid. No one should ever do it as well.
I'm not saying he's a liar, just show us evidence.
Yeah, but there's a lot of people who use that thing to try and get sympathy points, and so much so that I'm very skeptical nowadays. Name calling, look, there's even been name calling here, but I think it's been in response to some very disingenuous bullcrap arguments you've been doing. And also, you've been framing the people making those arguments, saying, oh, you're being somewhat hypocritical, even though that's not even... I remember that hypocritical thing where he called us being hypocritical to a standard that we weren't even, applying to, but then it stood to his... How... You expect people to just take that and say, oh, yeah, that's fine. That's just an opinion. It's like, you are calling people hypocrites, essentially, unjustly, and framing their arguments complete bullcrap.
And then
that's going to attract a negative attention. That's going to get people like us to say, what the friggin' hell are you talking about?
Yeah.
But no, all the negativity. How dare you call me any names or anything like that. Yeah. When the type of crap you've been pulling in this video, my goodness.
He's just an idiot. That's
sake. I've seen death threats surrounding a TV show. We're dealing with a TV show.
It's just a TV show, right? Why are you taking it so seriously? No. This type of media informs culture, okay? It has significant things, and just passing it off. Don't take things so seriously. Yeah. No, it should.
Careful, though. He might be like, oh, so you excuse the death threats? Just be...
I'm not excusing. I'm saying, why are you taking it so seriously? No, people can and should take it, especially if they're trying to promote certain, things as good and bad, and in the way that they frame stuff. Absolutely, you take it seriously.
Not missiles. We're not dealing with nuclear war here. It's a TV show.
You do realise that,
we haven't ever dealt with nuclear war, so...
Yeah. In terms of overreaction and everything like that, is it, you're saying the Halo community is overreacting when if you just say, basic things in life these days, people go crazy and try and cancel and try and ruin people's lives and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, come on, we're dealing with a word that we call you when we're referring to you, okay? It's not that important. We're just dealing with a pronoun that we call you.
Why are you taking it so seriously?
Yeah.
But this is the thing, I do agree these things are serious, and find out who's right by logic, evidence, and discussion, argument even. Yes, even criticism.
So yes, there are other arguments, there are other ways to go about this. I completely understand that. There are ways to pitch an argument about things you don't like, and so many people
you can make
out there
endless
are doing
abstractions
that.
About anything.
So many people are saying, we don't like this because of this, 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 and this. We feel it would be better to do this, this. That's fine. It's constructive. It makes...
Nothing he's actually said has validated the show here.
He hasn't said anything. Nothing he said has any substance.
It actually doesn't. There's been nothing in this video to validate the show at all.
He's tried to build a fortress, but he's built a sandcastle.
Oh my goodness. No, he's tried to build a fortress around a thing and has done it over there, and the thing is still vulnerable because his arguments don't even protect it. It's just...
sense. But the kind of arguments that I've addressed in this video have almost no foundation.
People weren't pissed about that little image we just saw.
A lot of the arguments you've addressed wasn't even the actual arguments people were making on the issues.
No. I think that's projection there. The arguments he's addressed have no substance. His arguments.
His ones, it's just like, again, there are big issues about the helmet, about the emotion, about everything like that you haven't even covered at all properly. You've sidestepped and just made, it's been emotional in these other things, so therefore that validates him being mischaracterized to a crazy extent. Nothing of what he said actually addresses, he's faulty, absolutely guilty of the thing he's accusing other people of, and the thing he's accusing other people of, one, if he was even to frame their arguments properly, they're not disingenuous, they're very valid. Absolutely, we've been explaining why throughout this rebuttal.
And are prompting and promoting the most baser, worst aspects of our humanity. To the point that...
Jeez, man,
it's just ugly.
This is my point. This is the ivory tower. Okay. Do you see what I mean?
You know, one of the things that really encourages anger, aggression, criticism, and stuff, misrepresenting people's views and opinions and their arguments and framing them like their feelings and thoughts have no foundation or validity, and that they're even being hypocrites. That's the type of thing that encourages this basic. It's the type of thing you're doing, mate. This video is a dumpster fire, and you're thinking, it's all these other people encouraging all this hate, when this is the very type of thing you've dismissed their arguments by not even properly addressing them.
But
Holy crap!
Do you see what I mean, though, Shad? Where he's like, this... What does he say? These are the... There's no foundation to the argument. It appeals to the baser, worst aspects of our humanity.
Yeah,
to the point that
it's
just ugly. Like, see, this guy is literally, it's the Anna Kasparian, I'm better than you. But you're also, garbage people.
The worst aspects of humanity? Like, if you think this is the worst aspects of humanity, people getting heated over depictions and adaptations, stuff like that. I mean, have you looked at history in terms of the base?
It's just arguments over a TV show. We're not dealing with
exactly. That's what he said. Like, I agree that they're important. Like, this stuff is important because I think culture is, like, especially TV shows, is a reflection of a culture.
Yeah.
And what they promote and depict in terms of what's appropriate for masculine characters, stoicism, all these things, but also other ideals. If you want us to talk about political ideology, look at the most recent episode, it was episode 6 specifically, of what they start to spout in that. Yeah, this stuff is important to talk about and take seriously. But in terms of how seriously, I would agree, like, this isn't the worst type of behavior that humans can do. In actual fact, proper critical pushback against, like, crap like this is not a bad thing. There needs to be gatekeeping to prevent the corruption that we are seeing in culture.
Yeah, I just can't get over the fact that he's just said, just don't be so mad about the show, but then he's like, oh, arguments about the show. This is the worst of humanity. Dude.
Like, is that, like, I want to reduce the hate by calling the people who disagree with me, like,
the worst,
acting in the most based, worst ways of human. The point that it's just ugly, and the arguments are completely disingenuous and invalid and all that stuff. Yeah, that's not encouraging division and hate, isn't it, mate? If you were afraid that this video would cause backlash, and then you act in a way that encourages it, by fully misrepresenting and strawmanning people who have genuine, legitimate, valid issues with this show, by not even addressing it. It's like, oh, but he's been emotional, but he's been emotional against. Sidestepping the point is that over-emotional and the mischaracterization, not the fact that it's one of the so many things. Man.
I hope that no one tells this guy about the arguments that people have had over religion over the past couple hundred years. That would really set his mind into a panic.
Ugly to each other, and it's really disheartening.
Well, you've encouraged it.
This is a basic reality of
if you wanted to be respectful, right, just present their arguments fairly.
Where we are right now. I, for one, am enjoying the TV series. A lot. I'm making the conscious decision to focus on the things I like.
Conscious decision, like, oh wow, I know it's crap, but I have to like it, so I'm just brainwashing myself.
To like it. You know, just
actually, you're right. Like you have to try to like it. Wow,
bro. At least an ostrich doesn't make a conscious decision to stick its fucking head in the sand. Like that's an instinct. You're just like, oh. Blind both my eyes. Okay, I see what I like. Idiot.
You don't need to try that hard to like something that's genuinely good.
But if you do have to try that hard, what do you think that means?
Like, I know, but it's like, if I just focus on the things I like and ignore all there is so much crap with this show, and he hasn't even tried to validate. Like, in actual speaking of the show, the only things he's actually talked about the show specifically are things he's hate. He's given legitimate examples of things that worked horribly in the show, and then he hasn't mentioned anything to validate elements in the show that he thinks is good. He's only tried to disingenuously and falsely address the arguments he thinks that people are saying are why it's bad, but not actually address the arguments.
Yeah, but that's the thing. He has to frame our arguments or ignore them in a way that he can beat, because he can't actually address them honestly.
The positivity that surrounds it, because I suppose I'm a more optimistic person by nature.
Yeah, well, you're not living in...
I don't know, like, there's been some decent cynicism and negativity in the framing of this stuff. Like, why didn't you go to try and understand your opponent's views and opinions to the level of dedication that you have with trying to focus on the positive of the show? Because, I don't know, like, I'm not sure he could even do that, because I just...
He's an optimistic person who loves hating Halsey. He loves it.
And it's like...
One optimistic person.
I'm skeptical, okay? I'm a skeptical kind of person. I think that's a quality that sometimes you need in life. But I would say I'm an optimistic guy.
Yeah.
Not in regards to the quality of media that's coming out. I'm very jaded in regards to TV shows coming out.
I'd say I'm an optimistic and skeptical guy too. So there you go.
Yeah.
Guess we all would think.
Maybe
we're like
yeah.
Rust Cole or Adolf Hitler, you know.
Yeah. So press F to doubt on us and press F to doubt on him about optimism there.
I'm extremely well versed in the lore and I can appreciate the connections to the original.
Oh, that's very elitist. Like, look, if you were well versed as me in the lore, you would appreciate the connections in the show. Saying you know stuff doesn't validate the knowledge. And at the moment here, I mean, the knowledge that you're drawing on was misapplied so vastly that it doesn't address any of the arguments people are making.
He contradicted himself all the time.
And got certain elements of the law wrong as well.
I'm willing to separate my expectations from reality and allow the narrative and the storyline to ebb and flow.
Separate your expectations from reality?
This isn't reality.
What
it's a story.
does that mean? That means essentially I will have no expectations because expectations are tied to reality in some way, like in terms of this. Like that's a confusing statement to me.
And take me where it will.
No. Take me where it will. You've just said, I'm choosing to focus on the positives. You're not letting it take you where you will. You're forcing yourself to like it.
Yes. Yep.
Seeing a more humanized chief. I'm enjoying the grand vistas.
All right. This is where he's trying to validate positive. He thinks seeing a more humanized chief is a virtue of the show. And the humanization of Chief makes him weak, wish-washy, mopey. It's boring.
It's not the humanization of Chief. It's the feminization of Chief.
It is. And
give him pink armor and cat ears. 343.
And you think Chief couldn't be humanized by being stoic? Is that what it's saying? Is like you can't relate or feel that a person is human if they're a bit more reserved?
Because they can't relate to stoicism. They can't.
Wow. Because Master Chief is acting so nonsensical, so mentally detached, so unstable. This is making him less humanized. I care less about him because he feels so unrealistic and just dumb and stupid that I don't care about him. I don't feel like he's a real character, real person in this show. I know he's a artificially constructed, contradictory mess that I don't care what happens to him. He's not a... Contrast this to like Vander in Arcane. That is a humanized person.
Or even the villain.
Even the villain!
Silco.
Yeah.
They're humanized characters. I care about them and what happens to them. But this Master Cheeks in the show, the fact that they have ruined the characterization to the point where he doesn't even feel real almost makes it as non-humanized. They have unhumanized
He's less
him.
than one-dimensional. He's not even a character.
Space and the chaotic battles.
2 chaotic battles.
Enjoying the grand vistas of space. What chaotic battles? 2?
And what grand vistas apart from that bloody, what do you call it?
Wasted-
Willy Wonka lift ride through the
Wasted budget on these little transportation things and everything like.
This guy's just an idiot.
I'm enjoying the gratuitous violence and
That wasn't a part of Halo. It was never gratuitous.
And by the way, gratuitous violence. Again, 2 main fight scenes so far.
Yeah. No, but he means gore.
Yeah.
Gore was never a part of Halo. Like, even when you blow the flood apart, there's no blood. It's all green goop.
Oh, you going to say Nathan?
There wasn't that much violence, considering it's been 6 episodes.
Yeah.
and the gore involved in telling a more accurate wartime story.
Accurate wartime story. Holy crap, the military strategy in this is dog crap stupid.
Accurate wartime story. Are you kidding me?
They have all this infrastructure to just dig out this crystal thing. They could have picked up and loaded in a car at any time, and then when the signal gets out that they know it's sent, they just sit there with their pants down to get blown to hell.
But not just that.
This is not an accurate war. Like, they are so dumb.
Yeah, but there's also no clear hierarchy. There's no clear compartmentalization of different units and control of information.
Yeah.
There's nothing about this that is realistic. Or
and also,
wartime.
it doesn't even feel like there's a war going on.
Yeah.
There's barely any conflict between the Covenant and humans. The Covenants reach planets, and they just leave they attack one colony and then leave the entire colony intact. They're not out for the extinction of the human race. They just leave them perfectly fine. The conflict in this is just weak water crap.
Yeah.
And it's just a sloppy rag. There's no great conflict, no wartime story here at all. See, this is why he didn't really go into trying to argue the virtues of the show, because you can't substantiate them. He's saying this is good and that is good, and when he's like, all right, we actually can reference legitimate elements in the show that contradict what you're trying to say is good about it.
I'm enjoying hating this manipulative, narcissistic Halsey.
That I can give him. Enjoy.
Yeah, optimistic person. Though.
Yeah,
I thought you were a happy person.
That's true. She is a loathsome character. I agree. You can enjoy hating that if you want. I'll give you that.
I'm
one.
enjoying both the fundamental similarities and differences between the Silver timeline and the main canon.
He's enjoying the differences. So
What
you're
differences
happy
has
with
he
it.
brought up? I don't think he's brought up a single thing apart from hating Halsey that he actually liked about the show.
He's actually
Oh, the
brought up
fighting.
more things he disliked in the differences. He actually lists many points of that.
The two things he likes, one of them was the battle, right, the war, and hating Halsey. And then there's like 6 things he dislikes, and they're all changed.
And the similarities, what? Is that the helmet looks a bit the same like Master Chief? Is that this? Because the true similarities are almost not there.
Yeah.
This isn't Halo. Like, again, if you took away the visual identifiers like the helmet and then took away the
wouldn't be able to
names, so it wasn't called the Covenant, and made the aliens not look the same.
You know what? Just don't
And
show Master Chief or the aliens. That's all. Everything else
Really?
can stay exactly the same. You just don't show Master Chief or the aliens, and you can keep it all identical.
What about the names? Because Halsey, another thing. Like, if you, I reckon
Same.
just names, but the story has nothing in similarity.
It is in no way comparable.
Yeah, it is.
So,
Yes, I'm enjoying the similarities. That means he's enjoying the dangling keys. It's like, oh, that's what's the spike gun?
Spiker.
The needler.
That's a needler.
Oh, the
It's like, needler. He's getting the member berries. See, that's what. Oh
Yeah.
wow, that's you do not have high standards then, sir.
Each week, I look forward to seeing the next episode.
Boy, you must have a sad life if that's what you're looking forward to.
I was gonna say I enjoy it, but I actually don't. Like these episodes are so bad that even reviewing them is a bit. We'll still do it. We'll do it for you guys, our fans. But it's not enjoyable. It's a drag to watch this now because.
What I look forward to each week? Death is a week closer.
I sit and watch, I make notes, I get excited. Seeing the battle scenes in episode 5 was extremely enjoyable.
Oh, episode 5. Oh, episode 5, huh?
They were wrapped up in astounding stupidity. Like, seriously, watch our reviews. We encourage you to watch our reviews. Like, the battle scene in episode 5, it was so much dumb. So stupid. Unbelievably so. Everything from the message going out, trying to get the thing, how they arrive in just instantaneous, they're just there, to the point they're everything in that is so dumb. But he's one of those viewers that all he needs is flashy lights and explosions, and he'll enjoy crap shoveled into his mouth.
I don't even think it's that. I think he's just doing this for cope.
And seeing Spartans in all their power, speed and might come to life.
You haven't seen them in their power, speed, and might. You've seen them in 2 fights, and they're just a bit meh.
And in the 2 fights, okay, so the
It
first
was a
one,
contradictory
sure.
mess. No, because they don't do anything special to make them better. Master Chief literally picks up the same gun that one of the other guys were
And starts
using,
working.
and suddenly it now can kill them where the other people can't.
Yeah.
There's nothing special about the Spartans at the moment except for plot armor bullcrap.
Yeah, and in the second fight, one of the Spartans breaks down crying.
Yeah, has an emotional collapse. Yeah, they're coming to life with their speed and might when one is literally can't hack it, and
Yes.
she falls down.
Master Chief, I'm pissing in my pants, help me. Yeah, great humanization.
Life and dominate a battlefield is just awesome.
They didn't even dominate really.
They got dominated.
In the second one, they got blown to hell,
Hmm.
and one of the Spartans literally gets defeated and everything like that.
the only
And then
reason-
they get defeated. The thing that they're trying to protect gets stolen from them, and then they lost their main ship. The Covenant ship could have just blown
Yeah,
them to
they
hell.
lived out of the mercy
See?
of the Covenant.
Holy yeah, they're dominating the battlefield. Have you watched the show?
He hasn't.
Gosh.
It's also really nice seeing Spartans and how powerful they are and their reputation
Yes, powerful.
They have depicted the Spartans having emotional collapses. The Spartans start, if you could say, strong and get weaker as the show progresses. Legitimately, they get more emotionally compromised and they fail more.
manifest in the
No wonder he avoided trying to point out virtues in the show, because everything he's listing is objective bullcrap, and we can literally reference it. What is the show does not show this at all.
troops and people around them in just normal military day-to-day life.
Yeah, that's what we wanted, isn't it? We wanted normal military day-to-day life. Even
Slice
then.
of life military flick.
Yeah.
And is him having a identity crisis a military life? No, it's random crap.
Seeing Chief
Well. They're allowing trans people into the military now. So.
towering over other people, with evident panic and fear towards him from the rebels. Seeing the rebels in the first episode speak
They're
of
not afraid of him at all. They talk about
They
Spartans like they're
belittle
scary.
him. They belittle him. They put like a forklift in front of his way, and he moves it. Like
Yeah. The girl's dad,
Quan
yells and
does
shoots at
not
him.
respect or fear
Yeah.
him at all. She's sticking it into him all the time, like metaphor. Just like
I believe they call it pegging.
They do not respect the Spartans, and their fear is not translated in any measure.
Yeah.
Spartans in an almost folklore, scary story kind of a manner, and how they freak out.
Like he's trying to say, he's extrapolating all that from the conversation at the beginning, but the actual interactions they show between Spartans and regular people and the rest of the show contradicts that.
When they arrive is just awesome to see, because it parallels the mainline lore in that the rebels actually had nursery rhymes as cautionary tales to their children.
Yeah, but they don't.
That would parallel the mainline narrative if they showed those nursery rhymes. That's a parallel. This is not like the respect and fear that they show was spoken of but not shown, and they showed the opposite. They showed disrespect, and Quan doesn't fear him. She even tries to kill him at one point.
Yeah.
For most of the war, Spartans were like apparitions,
Sorry.
near mythical.
Just like, remember how he's like, oh, he takes his helmet off when he's safe and puts it on for battle, but then like Asian lady points a gun at his face and he's like, you gotta aim up here, lady. Let me take my helmet off for you.
Shrouded in shadow and leaving chaos, death, and blood in their wake.
Now it's just this
I
is
think
waffle.
The
It's
TV
not.
show is doing great so
Again,
far.
he needs to drag it out.
What it is, it's facing
Then you have very low standards, sir. I'm sorry. The TV show is crap.
For what it's facing, though, what does he mean?
And what is?
a lot of adversity, but it's doing great.
It's facing a lot of adversity. Yeah, it's our fault the show sucks, huh? The people who had nothing to do with the creation of it, it's our fault it sucks.
And it's not doing great. It's not like it's not getting nearly as much popularity or views.
Bro, why are you victim blaming? We're the victims of this show.
It's pulling in the views, whether you like it or you don't.
All right,
Same thing with our reviews.
Can we look up like I don't
Doing
know?
it right now.
No, they're not releasing their view. They're not releasing the viewership.
They have like
They're not doing
if they have not publicly released the views, it's going horribly.
Yep.
Like whenever a show is doing great, they release it every time. It's a
Yep.
bragging point and adds more promotion, everything like that. And again, they try, and when they stop, you know it's not good.
Yeah.
So we're like, it's pulling in views, whether you like it or not. If they haven't even released their views, where are you getting that from?
Yep.
Because Paramount might have said something, oh, we're getting the most views we've had in a while and everything like that. Barely anyone watches Paramount Plus. We have not seen official figures. If they have been released, we're going to mention them now. Nathan's looking them up at the moment. But from the reaction that we have seen,
Yeah.
this is not going well.
If they'd released their views, I would have said.
They were so desperate, they tried to put out the first episode for free. And then they took it down because it was getting such a critical reception in the comments.
And I hope it continues to develop, unfold, and grow in popularity into the future.
That's unlikely.
I will not stop watching it.
See? Dude, Master...
He's like, I will not stop watching.
It's like he knows it's crap.
Even if it just gets
Worse and worse.
He dies,
Yeah.
and Cortana turns into like it does not matter what happens in this show.
Yeah.
I will not-
You're right. He has been making excuses to try and like he's forcing himself to like it. He knows it's crap. He actually knows it, I reckon. But I don't know. He has his allegiances set, and he has to maintain them.
Will not stop covering it here on my channel. And I hope that while this has been...
Well, if he keeps doing things on the show, well, we might just have to, see what his views are.
Yeah.
And look, if his arguments are sound, we'll credit it. But your arguments have been awful.
Yep.
Awful.
pretty uncomfortable for everyone. I hope that while this has been pretty uncomfortable...
I don't know. I've been finding it funny, not uncomfortable. You've been finding it uncomfortable, I know, because I think he's squirming inside. He knows it's crap.
Yeah.
And he knows people hate it, and that's why he's uncomfortable and doesn't want
for
to.
everyone, I hope
And look, it's pure speculation, but that's the impression I get.
that perhaps, now you know my reasoning, and now I've pitched this side of the argument, that perhaps we can have some civil...
Mate, you haven't actually been civil. Civil would be actually addressing the arguments. You
Call us
have made it
hypocrites.
vastly worse. You've made yourself look really bad by this video.
And also, he's just framed it as in, the people who don't like it are the ones that are being uncivil. Because he just said, this is our side of the argument. Now let's keep it civil, please.
No, mate.
discussions in the comments. Because I really want to open up the dialogue so both sides
This
can
part
be
is
heard
Halo
without
2
it boiling
apparently.
over to outright chaos.
Well, you have opened up the dialogue whether you like it or not, and even if you're trying to curate your own comment section, because it feels like you've been just deleting, like, I don't know, but people have been saying you've been deleting my comments and stuff, and we've checked the comment section, and it seems like there's been people who might just been pointing out the bullcrap arguments you've been making. No, that's toxic.
Yeah. And
also, this is the thing. If you've been acting disingenuously, people have a right to say, you've acted like a disingenuous arsehole here.
Yeah.
Seriously, the arguments you've been making have been straw manning, have been like just totally incorrectly framing the side. You legitimately called them hypocrites, or it's a bit hypocritical when you are guilty of the same thing. That makes you look bad. And when people point it out for valid reasons, that's not toxic.
Yeah.
That's on you, mate.
And hey, if you have any corrections or arguments against us or for us, or against him that he probably would have deleted, put them down in the comments.
Bring it on.
And make sure you're clear about who you're talking about.
I understand if you don't like it. I get it, I do.
Finally, something from Halo 3.
I understand you don't like it. You don't understand why we don't like it, because if you did, you'd actually make a proper rebuttal.
Yeah.
When you've tried to explain the views of people who hate the show, you've failed at accurately describing those views. You don't get it. You don't understand it. Don't give us this bullcrap.
I've read the comments. I've seen how people have been responding to it. I've seen the criticism.
Yeah, you obviously haven't taken on board, and you've gone out of your way. It seems like you've gone out of your way to misrepresent those views.
People don't like. I get it. I really.
You don't get it.
Genuinely get it. If you don't like it to that degree.
I've just been saying bullcrap about what you feel about the show, but I get it. I'm your friend now. You know.
It's more of the I hear you sort of
when
thing.
You don't. Is that rain? If you hear rain, it's because it's now raining.
If you're that emotionally moved by it, just don't watch it.
If you don't like it, don't watch it. No, we'll watch it and call it out for the dumpster fire it is, as it rightly deserves. It's just like, leave us alone. Like, no, if it's crap, we will call it out as crap.
Don't watch the TV show. Don't watch content here on YouTube.
Just don't read the comments that you don't like.
His response for both liking it and hating it is stick your head in the sand.
That evidently covers the TV show.
How much cooler these aliens
and
look
don't
in the
then
show.
go into the evidently.
Don't watch the content here on YouTube that evidently covers the TV show. Don't criticize me. It's so mean.
Stay away, meanies.
Oh, sack up.
Yeah.
You're like, come on, man.
Get some balls.
This is really the argument that please don't be mean to the thing I like. Just if you don't like it, don't watch it. No. If it's crap, it deserves to be exposed for how crap it is. So we will keep watching it. And we might be keep watching the videos you make just to see the arguments you do. Because you deserve to be called out for this crap.
If everyone else does,
this video is garbage and deserves to be called out as such. And I cop it too, okay? Yeah. And it's fair game. This is how it works.
And don't then go into the comments and throw around accusations, hateful comments.
Your accusations, just you're a bit hypocritical and all that stuff.
Death.
And this is the thing, right? I actually feel the way that he has framed the opposite side by not even... he's making out like the people who hate the show don't know a thing about the law and all their arguments were disingenuous, invalid, and everything. Which is all wrong. You haven't framed the arguments accurately at all. So the context of the video is to make out all the people who have had these problems are idiots and misinformed. That is vastly more disingenuous and hateful in my mind than someone just calling you an idiot for what you said. But you're not going to own it. I don't think you will. But you've actually this is borderline malicious with how vast you've reached to misrepresent and belittle and show the opposing side completely contrary to the arguments they're making, reasons why they dislike this show. That's bad, okay? And it's hidden behind fake sincerity, where I understand you. You don't understand because you don't know anything, and that I am informed on the subject. No.
Threats, pain, sickness, and God knows what else upon your fellow man.
Yeah, we wouldn't know what else because you haven't shown us any evidence.
Like a TV show that you don't. If you're that emotionally moved, and I didn't think I'd actually ever have to say this on my channel, if you're that emotionally moved to rage and anger by the TV show, the reality is this. I am not going to stop watching it.
Yeah.
I am.
Fine, keep watching it. You could cover yourself in and call yourself, the Banana King. We don't care.
It is so disingenuously framed. It's like
he's so pompous, man.
Yeah, and he's the one who's contributing more toxicity to the community by vilifying and misrepresenting. You vilify by the misrepresentation. You're showing people who have the opposing view as idiots, misinformed, everything like that. That is a type of vilification. That's what you've done, okay? That's toxic. All right? That encourages this type of response. Okay?
Why are you pointing at me?
We're being aggressively against him, right? And it's not because you like the show. It's how you frame the arguments. Look at all the times we got annoyed and emotional, okay? It's because of the things you have said, all right? Not because you like the show. Enjoy the show. I don't care. It's crap, okay? And it does make me question your standards of quality entertainment in TV and stuff, but it would end there. But as soon as you start to belittle and misrepresent the opposing view, and when I say belittle, like it's a bit hypocritical, yeah, that's when you belittle it, right? That's when we get annoyed and emotional, all right?
I'm not going to stop enjoying it.
Of course you're not going to. You keep forcing yourself to enjoy it.
Wow, wait, I'm not going to stop enjoying it. What if it starts to pick horrible things? No, it's Halo. I must enjoy it.
He already has, and he already has.
He has, I know, it's true, but I'm trying to think of it more extreme things that Master Chief starts to, I don't know, rape Covenant as he, starts to kill him.
Well, I mean, teabagging is a thing, so...
But the thing is, I'm not going to stop enjoying it no matter what. Surely you must have a line.
Well, he's already said, I'm choosing to focus on the things I enjoy.
It shows that he doesn't actually, he's not judging the show on its merits and standards of quality because he's choosing to enjoy it. And this is the evidence right here. I'm not going to stop enjoying it. Wow.
Yeah.
Stop covering it here on my channel. If you can't take the TV series, if you can't take the Silver Timeline, all of my videos are very clear as to whether or not I'm covering it or not. If you don't want to be involved in the TV show, don't watch the video.
This guy's voice could peel paint off a wall.
I mean, we want to be involved in the TV show in a very vocal way. And we're not going to stop either. But this thing, if the TV show was good, we would have praised it.
Yeah.
We don't have a bias about this.
I love Halo.
Look at our coverage of Wheel of Time. I went in there giving it every benefit of the doubt, all right? It's just that the Halo one was...
tried so
I
hard.
tried, man. But it was garbage. The Halo show is worse.
Yeah.
I'll admit, this is a dumpster fire from the get-go.
I bet that I was the little Balzaman appearing in a dream,
but
hate the show, Shad,
if it was good, if it was actually good, and it still contradicted Halo lore, but it actually had decent writing, I would acknowledge it. It doesn't, though. The writing is nonsensical bullcrap, where he literally gets a magical repair ship device by touching some magical McMuffin.
That also destroys all...
That destroys everything else. It was such bullcrap.
I could have liked it being separate from Halo if it had good writing, but the fact they call it Halo, if it had good writing but was also very different in terms of the story, everything else, I wouldn't have liked it.
Yeah, and I get that, because I'd be like that with Wheel of Time, honestly. But I would still try and acknowledge quality where it is quality.
Videos that I cover it. And if you can't even resist that temptation, and like I said, I didn't think I'd have to say this, if you can't even resist that, just leave. Unsubscribe.
He takes it to this guy's a professional waffler.
Is a stretch. I don't know. Does that beat me?
Oh.
Wait, because it takes pauses.
He does. They're slow
so
as well.
Okay. With the hypothesis of everything I'm talking about, I don't want to offend anyone. And I'm really
Stop it, Nathan. I've had enough with it already. I don't need a replay.
Courtroom stenographers love this man because he's the perfect speed for them.
Just leave, just unsubscribe. Well, that was him. For us, we want people with opposing views to stick around. Even if you're going to be crazy aggressive in the comments, well, our other fans will respond and you'll strike a debate. And if we see it and have time, I'll respond as well and shut you down.
It's actually usually me.
Yeah, probably.
I see a comment saying, come on, communism ain't that bad, and I get into it.
But we want people who disagree with us to watch us. We want people that hate us that watch us because it gets us more views and just feeds us so good. And so the idea is just go away. I don't need you. Unsubscribe. It's not the best strategy.
I'm not stopping covering this. I like it. I enjoy it too much.
We don't want him to stop covering it. We want him to cover it honestly. That's what we would like. And if he doesn't, well, the people like us call you out on it. That's how it goes.
I can accept it for what it is. I look upon it.
No, you can't. You
with
said
optimism.
I have to change my views. I have to force myself to like
exactly. You can't accept it as it is. You've been forcing yourself to like it. You've had to pretend the game lore doesn't exist. Gosh.
And focus on the things I enjoy the most. But I'm not changing. I'm not changing the way I'm doing my
You're changing your
content.
views.
And I will continue
So this is like the part where he says, "I'm not changing," and it says, "I'll like it no matter what it does." Basically, is what it says. That shows ideological possession. That shows he has a preconceived opinion, allegiance, status that he must conform to, regardless of the quality.
Yeah, and I think it's his status as a 343 fanboy and shill.
He has to like it, so he's forcing himself to. This reveals a bad, like a disingenuous. It shows that you come off very dishonest in this, honestly, about it.
To cover it, and I will continue to...
I bet he feels like this is an honourable stance where I'm sticking to my guns. Like, not for these reasons.
defend people who are effectively being shot down and bullied because they simply like a TV.
Disagreeing isn't bullying, by the way. If you're getting shut down, it isn't bullying either. Being called an idiot for idiotic takes and things like that, if I say something stupid, call me stupid. I deserve it. Okay?
I'm constantly calling myself retard. I'm constantly calling myself fat retard. So is everyone else.
What's annoying is that, people consider speaking the truth bullying these days.
That's why I never called it bullying when you called me retarded.
TV show. It's a TV show.
And Star Wars was just a movie about space wizards made for children, which, no, it's not. These things have significance and deserve pushback when they are.
If this video helped, if you enjoyed it, if it changed anything for you, even if it didn't, let me know. Respectfully, let me know.
This is why, and Shad, you're not going to like when I say it, this is why I can't stand British people except for Carl. Because Carl isn't like this.
I know a lot of British people that aren't like that, though.
Do you?
More like.
It seems to be like 5 out of 10. Well,
Okay.
I guess that's literally half. Okay. Well, yeah, it is half. Yeah. What was the vote for Brexit? This guy definitely voted not to leave.
There's great people in Britain. You're just
Sure.
You're getting confused.
But where are they?
I understand the accent makes them sound snobbish. I think
No, it's
they would
not the
acknowledge
accent,
that.
it's how they talk. I know that sounds like it's accent. It's not. Half of them don't even speak the English language anyway, you know?
Because I want to tackle this as objectively as I could.
I want to be objective about this. I'm also choosing to focus on what I enjoy.
Wow.
You can't change his mind.
I'm going to keep doing this no matter what.
Objectively.
But I'm going to cover it objectively.
Yeah, you so objectively misjudged when the book came out before. 2002, bugger off.
Oh, wow.
So objective, this guy can't even research the date that this thing came out.
People have a problem that the developers ignore the game lore and made something completely different, but he's going to be objective, and instead of actually acknowledging that issue, he's going to obfuscate and twist the thing and say, oh no, they did look at the lore. That wasn't the issue. It was how much of the lore they adopted, the original story, the tone they adopted into the show. Well, no one ever said, like, no one looked up anything about Halo.
He's an objective.
But yeah, he's being objective, right? He's actually addressing their true points. Come on. Look, I think his trying, I'm not sure he's approached it in a genuine way because of how bad this video is. I don't want to cut off any hope. Like, maybe he'll be able to acknowledge what he got wrong here. Who knows? I can say this video is objective garbage. This video is objective garbage. I don't know him personally enough to make, but he made some pretty bad calls and things, and the way he frames stuff, it makes you look bad.
I'd like to know if I did or if I didn't achieve that.
You didn't.
You did not.
There you go.
This is a really, really tough time to be a Halo fan.
Oh, why is that? Why is that? I thought Halo's a success. Massive success. It's got a TV show. It's got a new game. Why is it a tough time?
Like, I agree, because there's an awful crap show that just disrespects and takes a dump on what Halo is supposed to be, what it represented, the character, the core of it, and just makes this bullcrap adaptation that is garbage. Yeah, that's tough. I agree.
I get it. There's a lot.
I get it.
A lot of unrest. It's a really tough time to be a fan of Halo. It's a really tough time to be a content creator. It's a really tough time.
Yes, life is tough.
This is just. This feels so fake. It's like he's just. Yeah, it's just like he's like it. When people are just like, I get it, I understand. When they don't actually get it, I understand them. It comes off like you're saying bullcrap and that you're just doing it for disingenuous reasons to make you feel genuine. When if you were genuine, you would have actually addressed the arguments accurately, fairly, which you have not.
You really don't like that.
What?
That's the one thing you
It
keep
is.
coming back
It
to.
is that because that's the big evidence of it. Like, this whole video was supposed to be addressing the criticisms that people have of the Halo show, and he didn't even address any core primary one. He just sidesteps it and just makes up strawman bullcrap.
Also, he's not being very optimistic right now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I know, right?
It's a really tough time.
He's an optimistic guy, but it's tough.
So not only is it a tough time to be a Halo fan, it's a tough time to be a content creator. Watch, it'll be Human or something.
But he'll probably take our type of reaction as the toughness. It's
all this
criticism that is under.
That's the thing. You know, the reason it's hard to be a Halo fan is because there's so much toxicity from the.
And by the way, like, people have done this to us, right? Where they tried to do a live stream where they reacted, and it was laughably bad.
Oh man,
it was hilariously bad
because they can't be offensive. They're not allowed to. Their ideology forbids it.
It was genuinely funny, and so. In terms of dealing with backlash and other things like that, it's, I guess, one, how valid it is, and two, how well you can handle it personally, that term is how difficult it is.
I went to their Discord and they banned me. I just said, hi guys, how you doing? Banned.
To be involved in Halo right now, but the level...
I'm loving being involved in the Halo community right now. First time, bring it on.
Imagine getting in on the arse end, you know? I got it in a golden age. That's why I love it.
Of hatred and acid and
the hatred and acid and poison.
You've contributed to it, and you'll provoke it even more. You've provoked this reaction from us. That's you, and what you've again misrepresented and just made bullcrap arguments. You are contributing to that toxicity and haste by inviting and provoking it by strawmanning and just
name calling. A name calling.
Yeah.
Even him calling us poisonous and acidic and toxic is an attack.
Exactly, it is.
And you're calling the entire other side that.
But you're innocent from all that. Yeah. You're above it all. You're better, because you understand. Come off it.
Necessary and completely unjustified. Things are going to get better, I promise. Things
when
will
you
get
stop
better.
making bloody videos.
I suppose that's my optimism again.
My optimism. Everything sucks.
The toxicity.
Everything's acidic and acid and toxic and poison
and hateful.
I guess that's just my positivity.
But it's like it's oblivious to what it's saying.
This community can be so decent. We just got to be willing to listen to one another. It's not.
He'll delete comments.
And listen, you couldn't even give one valid criticism of the show and represent it accurately to rebut. You haven't listened to spit. If that's what you think people are actually saying, the true problems that they have.
Much love.
Love you too, mate.
And it is just a TV show after all.
I don't know, you sound pretty depressed. It was a TV show. Why do you have such a problem with people hating it so much? It's just a TV show.
It's a TV show.
Wow! Holy crap! That was long, but we stuck to it. We got through it. This is going to take a while to upload.
Yeah. Well,
Nathan's even stayed extra hours overtime.
His videos just go for so long.
Wow, that was...
Yeah.
Sometimes I thought he kept replaying the video, but it was just him saying the same thing again.
There is so much to discuss about that. We could add another half hour just discussing it, but we've got to cut it now because we've gone overtime and it's been a while. But
this is why, to me, brevity is so important.
This is also why we, on Night's Watch, must stay ever vigilant against what's happening and everything. So as always, we shall stay watchful.